Warrior Lore. Chapter 1009. Blunder. Chapter 1009. Blunder. Proofreader. Papatonks. The bait and hunter work together in capturing the enemy. So how come it turned into a central area spy? Sect leader Boo? Lingtian smiled, teasing. It seems to me that the Qin caravan was more like the Sun Sea sect spy instead. Ha ha ha. Bu Xingyun's face fell, glaring at his Executive Chow. When I had you punished for your gross misdemeanor, you said you were played, that the Qin caravan is a central area spy. Why then do I now hear that you two work together in capturing a Sword King, thus unleashing a calamity upon the sect? Sect leader Boo, the capturing of the Sword King falls all on Executive Chow. Please don't drag us into this when we know nothing of it. Zhuo Fan interjected quickly. To make his position known, Executive Chow's face twitched in anger. Losing his temper, your sly words lured me into this mess. I would never make such a grave mistake otherwise. Executive Chow, loose tongues end lives. I lured you? It's all your fault for telling me your tale is a spy that I sent a team to capture her. Haha, well isn't this funny? You're one of the 5 sects in Northern Lands, Sun Sea sect, in charge of keeping these lands safe. You're now saying that after having lost a carriage and being followed should be kept all to myself instead? You might have neglected to report my findings, but I had done my duty by telling you. Zhuo Fan sneered, then turned to Lingtian. Sect leader Ling, am I wrong in any way? If it were a matter of luring, then no one would ever report on the enemy movements to the sect and plunge Northern Lands into hell. Lingtian bobbed his head. Hear, hear, patriotic, responsible, and furthermore, when your own clan's goods end up ruined, who wouldn't report? This goes double in these times, with Northern Lands on the edge. Sect leader Ling is wise. Zhuo Fan gave a bow and turned to Executive Chow. Furthermore, there were rumors going around that Sun Sea sect is actually cowardly and didn't think my report would ever amount to much, so I omitted it from you at first. But with you questioning the loss of half the goods, I had no choice but to be honest. It was the only way for you to leave me be. Executive Chow's face twitched harder, with Bu Xingyun darkening by the second Zhuo Fan's passionate speech had simply been accusatory of the Sun Sea sect. What was worse, this happened in front of Lingtian, and so he could do nothing to retaliate, only twitching as he tried to bottle up that anger. Executive Chow's heart sank, looking at sect leader's sinister face. He had to do anything to get Qian Fan to take the fall, or he'd be the one to get it in the end. Finding central area spies was no longer the issue here, but giving his sect leaders self-respect back and letting loose. Qian Fan, we don't need your flimsy opinions. You might be right about the report, but what about later? You proposed that we catch the spy together and share credit. It's your enticing offer that made me act and mess with that witch. It's all due to you that she came to Sun Sea sect. Yeah, I did mention this to you, but how did you reply? Zhuo Fan raved. Having lost half the goods, I did not know how to make up for the loss. I planned on doing it alone, but you just had to push the issue. In the end, you frickin' acted on your own. Are you going to say I made you do that too? If it were an average spy, the success would have propelled your career. Would you have come to bother me then? Just 'cause you got bad luck and suffered for it, you want to drag me down with you. Is that how you think the world works? Sharing tribulations but not success? I first lost a carriage, and to add insult to injury, you stole my credit. What the hell? Zhuo Fan rained on Executive Chow, with the conviction in his innocence. He got Executive Chow to shake under the assault, and with no comeback, because all that Zhuo Fan raved about was damn true. Even his scheme back then was refuted, and he had no grounds on which to fight back, though he was no fool and nodded. But you said your dozen guards have chased the spy away. That which was anything but weak. Your words got me into this mess. Humph. Yeah, we had the spy surrounded, but then she escaped with her faster speed. Am I wrong? There's no way Frigid Rain Sword King got surrounded by just your team. How would I know? Zhuo Fan cupped his hands again before leaving Bu Xingyun eyed Lingtian, having lost all confidence, bowing to him, then taking Executive Chow away. Dai Qianqiu appeared once more next to Lingtian moments later. A farce, ha ha ha. That remains to be seen. Lingtian spoke gravely. Having lost his smile, Dai Qianqiu asked curiously, Sect leader, wasn't the matter clear? The so-called spies never existed. Yeah, but it's too obvious, and that makes me uneasy. Lingtian's eyes shone. You think in any confrontation, there's only black and white. Humph. On one hand is the sect leader of the Sun Sea sect, and on the other a mere steward of the Qin clan. They couldn't be more different. But do you really believe that Steward would ever have the ability to control the way the confrontation went? Dai Chincho gasped. Sect leader means. There's more to that steward than he lets on. Ling Yuntian's eyes shone with conviction outside the hall. Shuafan was on his way back when a chill went through him. Curses, I've just gone to clear my name but showed off too much. What kind of merchant would act like that? I treated those two like rabid dogs. Ugh, what a blunder. Chapter 1010. Well met, again. Chapter 1010. Well met, again. Proofreader. Papatonks. What normal merchant out there refuted a sect leader? I got Ling Yuntian's favor from the start, and I just had to miss a few beats now and then, acting like I was pushed around, and then he would have gotten me out of it. But now that this win was too perfect, it only raised suspicion. Sigh. It all comes down to how perceptive Ling Yuntian is. But no random steward should ever be so tough. The more he thought, the more worried he became, ending up with a sigh as he made his way back. He had really been careless just now. And Mr. Gu? The sudden call snapped him out from his thoughts, pausing. Shuafan frowned, and his face fell. Who else could it be but one of his old pals from the central area? Freezing on the spot, he turned to find the very familiar miss of the Shangguan clan staring at him. It also worked to make him wonder what she would be doing here of all places. Wasn't she going back to Eastern Lands? What's she doing here? They got their sword back, so they ought to be home. Then it hit him, the Four Lands Alliance. As the Shangguan clan was the leader of the Eastern Lands, they of course offered help to Northern Lands in fighting off the enemy. Them being here was natural, or better yet, he should have been prepared for it. But the sudden meet came out of nowhere, leaving him floored. With the Shangguan clan knowing everything about him, his chin cover was bound to be blown. Shangguan Qingyan lit up with unspeakable joy. Mr. Gu? It's really you. I thought you looked familiar from afar. Zhuofan moved with speed and precision, landing next to her and covering her mouth. Shangguan Qingyan jerked, but then noticed Zhuofan's sneaky look. There was no trace of fear in her heart, only giving a silly smile. While her eyes basked in the joy of reunion, Zhuofan gave the secluded forest path a once-over for anyone else being around, then took Shangguan Qingyan deeper into the woods. Now looking at her excited gaze, he rolled his eyes and let go of her, speaking in a serious tone. How come I run into you again? Yeah, what a coincidence meeting you as well, Mr. Gu. Ha ha. Blushing hard, Shangguan Qingyan gave a shy smile and looked bashfully away, taking a deep breath. Zhuofan stared at her as he mulled before speaking. Miss Shangguan, I am so happy to see you as well. Really? I think so too. Shangguan Qingyan lit up and gazed into his deep eyes with a wide smile. Zhuofan rushed to settle her mood. This isn't the time to reminisce. I still have important things to do, so I must be going. So soon? But we just met. Yes, the matter is urgent. Ha ha ha. Zhuofan sighed. Also, I'm not Gu Yifan now, so act like you never saw me. You must never ever mention anything about me to anyone, or my head would roll. Are we clear? Shangguan Qingyan paused, then smiled. You're not Gu Yifan? Does that mean it's a fake name? Then who are you? Tell me, or I'm telling Dad that Gu Yifan giving him sleepless nights is here, in the Northern Lands. I gave him sleepless nights? What was he thinking about? Zhuofan's brow furrowed, but then shook his head. This was no time to think about some random stuff. So making sure the coast was still clear, Miss Shangguan, this is serious. I have a secret mission here that no one must know about. Are you up against Northern Lands now? That won't do. We're here to help them. I'm not interested in Northern Lands. I won't meddle in their affairs, I promise. Then what are you here for? It doesn't concern you. Just promise me you'll keep my secret, that you never saw me. Once I finish my mission, I'll just leave with none the wiser. Zhuofan vowed. Shangguan Qingyan pouted. You're saying you're gonna leave without drawing attention? Cross my heart and hope to die? I don't believe it. What about me? Grumbling with a lowered head, Shangguan Qingyan teared up. You slip and then slip out so that not even I will be startled? Zhua Fan's face twitched inside. Anyone else would be wrecked with fear from being involved with such a mastermind like him, then guilt eating them up inside from not reporting. But this chick is more worried about not saying goodbye when leaving. Just what's going through her head? What's so important about seeing her before I go? It's not like I'm taking her. Just what does she get out of a fake promise? Giving her a long look, Zhua Fan sighed. All right, I'll drop by before leaving. Really? Does that mean since only I know you came and left, then only I know what you did here? Shangguan Xinyan grew exuberant once more. Zhua Fan cocked his head. I guess. But what's with that twisted logic? Anyone else that knew this would have had me exposed. It's all the same, since you can only trust me in this place. I won't ever sell you out. Shangguan Xinyan giggled, hugging his arm. Zhua Fan's brow shook, glancing at her. Yeah, I guess I trust you. Who else am I to trust if not the one who ran into me? Ha ha ha. Besides, if anything happened to the miss of the Shangguan clan, it would draw unwanted attention and soon I'll be found out. The best way to keep quiet is to silence everyone. If they were a random person, that is. No, young Sanzi risked his life for her. Even if she's a nobody, I can't treat young Sanzi's sacrifice so frivolously. Zhua Fan muled things over, settling on letting this Miss Shangguan live. That meant he had to speed up his operation to minimize the already increasing risk. Miss Shangguan, we promised to forget about ever meeting and ever knowing each other. Farewell. Extricating his arm from her tight hug, Zhua Fan gave a dry smile and ran. Shangguan Xinyan shouted after only 2 steps, Gu Yifan, stop right there. Zhua Fan froze, looking back with a bright smile. What else can I do for you, Miss Shangguan? You still haven't told me your real name. You're going nowhere until you do. Shangguan Xinyan smiled. Zhua Fan frowned. My name's Qin Fan, ha ha ha. Fake for sure, humph. Grumbling, Shangguan Xinyan rolled her eyes. Zhua Fan shrugged. Anything I say you'll think it's fake, so what's the point in saying it? Don't say it then and I won't ask again. Shangguan Xinyan's eyes twitched, and then she grew quiet. But, I do want to know one thing. Ask away, but it's up to you if you believe me. Is young Sanzi all right? Ugh. Zhua Fan's face fell, taking a deep breath. He's still alive, but unconscious. I came here to save him. You sneaked into the Sea Bright sect for young Sanzi? How are you going to save him? Don't worry about it. Just know that I must succeed. Oh, I see. Then you can rest assured that I'll never tell on you. Shangguan Xinyan turned serious as she promised. For you or for young Sanzi, I will keep your secret. Zhua Fan smiled. I believe you will do it for young Sanzi. Then I'll go get ready. All right, till next time. Shangguan Xinyan was no longer difficult this time around. Watching Zhua Fan with hopeful eyes, that he would pull through. Zhua Fan nodded, then flew away, and off this island Shangguan Xinyan took a deep breath and had a sweet smile on her face as she went in another direction. Chapter 1011. Northern Land's Best Disciple. Chapter 1011. Northern Land's Best Disciple. Proofreader. Papatonks. Spring is in the air, with the bloom of flowers and the chirping of birds. In a quiet little home, Shangguan Xinyan's voice was heard as she sang, skipping around in a very good mood. Oh, Uncle Shangguan said that young Miss Shangguan has been down this past year, and I thought this silly sister was bothered with something, so I came to help. Now I see that sister is in good spirits. I must have gotten worried over nothing, ha ha ha. Shangguan Xinyan paused and looked back with a smile. Before her was the Southern Land's immortal healer Morong Shui, and her servant. Jouer, Sister Morong, you're here as well? Shangguan Xinyan cheered and jumped in Morong Shui's embrace. Morong Shui patted her soft hair. With Northern Lands in danger and the other lands helping, Southern Lands is not about to stay behind either. Young Miss Shangguan, young Miss had missed you so much. When we came last time to Northern Lands to get medicine, she has always wished to go to Eastern Lands and see you, young Miss, again. But the Northern Lands came under threat and clan head had to rush here. Young Miss wanted to visit you in Eastern Lands, then come to Northern Lands with Shangguan clan. Only that in the Eastern Lands we realized you've already gone to Northern Lands, so young Miss rushed here on the double. She made quite the detour. Jouer smiled at the two girls as she told them about her hard journey. Shangguan Xinyan was touched and broke the hug to look into Morong Shui's clear eyes as she grabbed her soft hands. You've been through so much, big sister. How could I repay you? This is nothing to you and Uncle Shangwan's hardship of taking back the soaring sword from the central area. Murong Shui glared at Shangwan Qingyan. Little sister, do I mean so little to you to not tell me about this huge matter about the stolen sword? Our four lands alliance aside, with our two clans so close, we would never have stood by during your plight. I just had to go to Shangwan clan myself in the eastern lands to know you've braved such terrible dangers before making a detour to northern lands, and for the Sea Bright sect without so much as a word of notice. Thank heavens you're all right. I wouldn't have known how to take your loss then. Wouldn't that be an insult to our clan's close friendship? Shangwan Qingyan gave the sullen Murong Shui a tight hug. Don't be angry, big sis. It's all my fault for not telling you. But I'm not the only one who deserves your anger. Who? Dad. Shangwan Qingyan giggled. After Shangwan Feiyun stole the soaring sword, someone proposed that we join hands with the Murong clan, but Dad refused. He said that it's our clan's problem and not to involve others, as it would earn their ridicule once this matter was out. How are we to provide support when we can't even keep our swords safe? Won't that disgrace our clan? Murong Shui sighed and shook her head. That's the Uncle Shangwan I know. Obsessed with appearances, right? Big sister Murong, be sure to teach my stubborn dad a valuable lesson. How could I? He's a senior and we are juniors. How can we meddle in their affairs? Also, Murong Shui chuckled and sighed. Uncle Shangwan must have hesitated out of concern for our clan. With southern lands having no conflict yet with the central area and a relative peace in place between us and the Sword Star Empire, I thus could still move about in their home. But by joining the matter of the stolen sword, it would bring many troubles to us. Shangwan clan is a righteous clan and would never cause misfortune upon another. This is something I appreciate about Uncle Shangwan's character and pain. Shangwan Qingyan nodded in understanding. Yeah, Shangwan is righteous and the Murong clan is filled with justice. Despite being apart, we are the prime example for good in the Five Lands. Murong Shui frowned and teased. A meanie? Oh, the one Uncle Shangwan told me about that you've been pining for a year now. Dad told you? Shangwan Qingyan blushed hard with a lowered head, but a silly smile. Murong Shui nodded. Uncle Shangwan avoided specifics, only saying that you had a fling in the central area and turned sulky. But the way I hear it now, it might not be as simple as a fling. Dear little sister, you're head over heels, completely lovesick. Ha ha ha. As if? Why not? Murong Shui teased. You used to be such a demure lady and now you can't even speak straight. You must have picked up his speaking habits. Ha ha ha. I bet your man isn't just anyone and knows how to be blunt as well. Shangwan Qingyan blushed harder. No way. He's just a bit harsh with words. What about that cousin of yours, Shangwan Yulin, who used to stick to you like glue? How does he compare? Humph, that traitor isn't worth his shoes. Shangwan Qingyan sneered. Murong Shui shook her head. Love is blind. You're truly hopeless. I heard from Uncle Shangwan that Shangwan Yulin has a bad character, but he was well known in the lands for his looks and strength. If he can't even carry the guy's shoes, won't that mean your man is beyond outstanding? Ha ha ha. I don't believe there's anyone as great as Shangwan Yulin. Love is in the eyes of the beholder. Little sis is so in love, she thinks the world of him. Shangwan Yulin's eyes shook and said with defiance, Big sis, you're too ignorant. The entire Shangwan clan witnessed his ability. Go ask Dad if you don't believe me. See how much Dad's praising him. That traitor Shangwan Yulin is nothing to him. Aren't you now arguing with me about his overestimated greatness? You even dare talk back to me, saying that I'm blind? Damn girl, want me to knock some sense into you? Murong Shui raised her hands with a sly grin and unleashed her tickling attack on the love-struck girl. Shangwan Qingyan dodged while laughing for her to stop. Big sister Murong, please stop. I won't say it. You're not blind. You're narrow-minded. Hey, did you pick only his bad habits? This goes to show he isn't anything good. Yet you're still saying it? Murong Shui swung while Shangwan Qingyan kept dodging in good humor. The girls enjoyed themselves with Juer giggling at the side in encouragement. Young Miss Shangwan, that's it. Keep at it. Hi hi hi. The red bean trees in the south to grow / by spring they yield in heaps above / I hope you pluck in plenty soon / because it is the gift of love. In the middle of their fun, a poem drowned the two girls' shrieks. Unable to disturb the speaker's resounding voice, the girls halted their fun and looked at the entrance thump. A man in a long robe and tied hair, a most refined scholar in demeanor and pace, walked in holding a snow-plum flower in his hand. Morong Shui started at his appearance. Ouyang Chongqing, you're out? Northern Land's best disciple Ouyang Chongqing? Shangguan Qingyan giggled. I've been to Northern Lands a couple of times, but never had met you till now. Ouyang Chongqing gave a bow and smiled. Young Miss Shangguan, I have been most of the time in seclusion. It's only natural to have yet to see me. Sister Shui, it's been a while. This snow plum flower is for you. Ouyang Chongqing smiled as he presented the flower with respect and a smile. Morong Shui did not take it. It's too soon to be calling me like that. How so when it's just right? Ouyang Chongqing beamed. Now that father has healed from his wounds and your brother is a guest in the Sea Bright sect, I shall ask father to request your brother to give me your hand in marriage. Then we can have an early wedding. Ha ha ha. Chapter 10:12, Suspicion. Chapter 10:12, Suspicion. Proofreader. Papatonks. What? Shangguan Qingyan looked in shock from Morong Shui and Ouyang Chongqing. Before settling on a smile, Big sis, you've been hiding your sweetheart all this time from me while even teasing me about my own. Now we get to celebrate your wedding with rounds of drinks. What's with that nonsense? Morong Shui glared at her, then looked into Ouyang Chongqing's hopeful gaze. Brother Ouyang, have you forgotten our promise? Of course not. Ouyang Chongqing spoke with pride, grasping the heavens, shaking the five lands, standing above everyone and only below one. Morong Shui smirked. Then, Brother Ouyang, which of these four have you achieved? While I have only fulfilled one, the other three are just a matter of time with this head start. While marriage is a way off, we can at least get engaged. My, how certain you are. What gives you such confidence? Morong Shui toyed. Ouyang Chongqing had his head held high, his chest out, as he said, It's obvious I'll grasp heaven. You know who my father is, the strongest in Northern Lands, Ouyang Lingtian, wielding the heaven-sealing sword. Won't the divine sword be passed down to me? The five lands' divine swords aren't necessarily passed down in one's family, but based on ability. Morong Shui huffed. Ouyang Chongqing gave an understanding nod, his pride unaffected. You're right. But if we are to leave father out of this, who am I exactly? The winner of the Northern Lands' Great Disciple Competition. I am now the best disciple in Northern Lands and later shall take my father's place in becoming the best in Northern Lands. Sister Shui has to agree. Morong Shui flicked her head away but still relinquished a nod. Ouyang Chongqing grinned. As for shocking the lands, it will come with becoming the best in Northern Lands. And as for being under one man? Shangguan Qingyan asked eagerly, with such high goals, to be still beneath someone. Who would that be? Is it that old freak Invincible Sword? Though it's kinda obvious since he hasn't been beaten for the last 10,000 years, and it's sure to stay like that for another few thousands. Ouyang Chongqing mocked. Young Miss Shangguan, you're totally underestimating me. I am a man destined to cleave the heavens. Once I gain insight into heaven-sealing sword art, his invincible status will be a thing of the past. Humph. See, that's the type I hate the most, overconfident to the extreme. He's no different from those prancing wastrels everywhere. Saying that you're above Invincible Sword without even meeting him is sheer lunacy. Morong Shui's face was hard as she made eye contact with Shangguan Qingyan. Shangguan Qingyan bobbed her head, looking at him eagerly still. Since even Invincible Sword is beneath you, then who will be the one above? Isn't it obvious? Ouyang Lingtian cupped his hands at the sky with a straight face. Family ties are most important. No matter how godlike I become, I shall remain father's son. Only my father can stand above me. As for standing above everyone, that'll come natural with the defeat of Invincible Sword. Ha ha ha. Ugh. Shangguan Qingyan's heart sank as she looked at his obnoxious zealotry, feeling Morong Shui's pain. Now I know what you mean by the four goals being simple. Besides you and your dad, everything is relative. Not relative, but destined to happen. Ouyang Chongqing spoke heavily. Morong Shui rolled her eyes. Then do come again when the relative becomes reality. Sister Yenner, let's go inside and forget about this bore. Murong Shui threw the snow plum flower, taking Shangguan Qingyan's arm and walking inside. I'd much rather have you tell me more about your man than listen to his obnoxious bragging. Shangguan Qingyan shrugged and followed after her, having no choice. Ouyang Changqing cried from behind, Sister Shui, I will succeed. Believe me. Believe your foot. Murong Shui cursed in her mind. Changqing, I believe you. A laughter came from nowhere as a familiar figure suddenly grabbed Ouyang Changqing's arm. Changqing, it's been years since we saw each other, and my how much you've grown. Already in the 8th layer soul harmony stage. There's no disciple like you in the other 3 lands. The sky's the limit, I tell you. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Changqing lit up, having his ego stoked. Brother Murong, it's been a long time. I missed you as well. Murong Shui paused and looked at Shangguan Qingyan with a sigh. I just don't know what brother sees in him to even give his little sister away. Shuer, did you say something? Nothing. Now that brother is here, does that mean you found clues to track them? Murong Shui still held Shangguan Qingyan as she went to give a slight bow. The smiling Murong Lai suddenly turned dark. Don't remind me. Those 3 are like ghosts, vanishing off the face of the earth. Sea Cloud sect had been searching for 6 months now, but still came out empty. They must have left that area, and all clues are gone. I could only come back. Who are they to have escaped the likes of Ardent Sun Sword God? Are they so great? Shangguan Qingyan asked curiously. Ouyang Changqing was also confused. With Brother Murong and the mighty forces of Sea Cloud sect scouring their domain, they should have been found in minutes. How can there be no trace at all? It's baffling. Brother Murong, would you care to tell me more about them? I shall gather all the men of the 5 sects and check everyone. We'll leave no stone unturned, but we'll definitely find them. No, please don't. It will only unsettle northern lands more. Invincible Swords team is hidden, and causing such chaos will only work against us. They'll use this chance to slip in. Yeah, Shuer is right. There's no need to go through such lengths for just 3 people. Our true enemy is Bailey Yutian after all. Murong Lai gave a hard nod. Ouyang Changqing pondered and relented. Does that mean, Brother Murong, that they're not from the central area? Who are they? Shangguan Qingyan picked up on Murong Lai's meaning. Murong Shui sighed. The man is as cunning as a demon, causing thousands of casualties in the central area then vanishing without a trace. Now he appeared in northern lands, along with an expert that can fight my brother to a standstill. Just what is he up to? We're yet unsure in his stance regarding the northern lands conflict, but he is without a doubt a dangerous element. Not even Brother Murong could catch him? Just who is he? Shangguan Qingyan cried out, and Ouyang Changqing looked at him with shock. Murong Shui was the one to explain still. I don't know who he is, just that he left one name in the central area, Gu Yifan. What? Shangguan Qingyan gaped, almost thinking out loud, but she caught herself in time, though her face sank. How can it be him? Why are the Murongs after him? What now? As she was thinking of finding out, Ouyang Changqing made it worse with his sigh. Just from the name I can tell he's bad. I never heard a more ugly name. Who in their right mind would use their real name when doing evil anyway? Murong Shui rolled her eyes at him. Ouyang Changqing shrugged. Never mind. Since we won't find him soon, not with a fake name and hiding his trail, I'm better off minding my own search. Brother Murong, want to come along? Who are you searching for? Murong Shui smirked. Sect leader Ling actually trusted someone as shallow as you to find someone suspicious? You're only going to scare them away. Ouyang Changqing's mood deflated. Sister Shui, don't underestimate me. Sect leader Ling personally asked me to make the inquiries. A caravan just arrived at the sect, one belonging to the Qin clan, one of the 3 great merchant clans in northern lands. Sect leader found their steward, Qian Fan, to be odd and asked me to look into him. Qian Fan? Shangguan Qingyan paled, having recalled Zhua Fan saying Qian Fan was his real name. While unclear if that was true, she believed that was the name he was using now. Curses, he even said to keep it a secret. Barely any time passed, and he's already under suspicion. Now that Murong brother and sister are after you. What do I do? Shangguan Qingyan was consumed by anxiety and worry. That damn man always knows how to make me uneasy. Chapter 10:13, Strongest Barrier. Chapter 10:13, Strongest Barrier. Proofreader, Papatonks. Looking at Shangguan Qingyan so distressed and jittery, everyone gave her an odd look, with Morong Shui asking, Sister Yenner, what is it? Something wrong? No. I just recalled something crucial that needs all of your dire attention. It all happened so fast that I suddenly cried out and startled you all. Don't look at me like that. Haha. Shangguan Qingyan gave a strained laughter. Her eyes shining. Morong Lai said, Oh, and here I thought you're familiar with Steward Qian? Brother Morong, that's a poor joke. Why would I know a northern lands merchant? Just when Brother Ouyang mentioned his name, I was reminded of a depressing matter. It's totally a coincidence. Hee. Shangguan Qingyan strained to cover it all up, while the rest merely ignored it. Sister Yenner, you're all grown up yet so easily stirred. You should worry about being married off. I'll never marry, and stay with Sister Shui. Hi. Shangguan Qingyan raised an eyebrow, while hugging Morong Shui's arm, rubbing her cute little head. Morong Shui smiled back. Morong Lai and Ouyang Chongqing looked at the two girls being so close and just shrugged. Morong Lai then smiled at Shangguan Qingyan. Sister Yenner, what's the dire issue that needs my help? You can just say it. Well? Looking hesitant, Shangguan Qingyan faltered as she beamed. It's something that Dad didn't want me to say, but recently he's been worried sick over it that I started worrying as well. Actually, Morong Lai turned serious. Brother Shangguan? It must be grave indeed for not even Shangguan clan head to not solve it. Yenner, tell me everything and maybe I can offer my help. Brother Morong, you must not say a word to Dad that I was the one who told you. You know how obsessed he is with appearances. Shangguan Qingyan put on a pained look as she spoke the big secret. Morong Lai and the others listened attentively, with Ouyang Chongqing looking hopeful. Of course, Sister Yenner, we won't ever mention you. I'm actually very curious to know this secret, especially about such a big clan. Shangguan Qingyan rolled her eyes, glaring at him, and scrounged up her nose, before sighing. To be quite frank, Brother Ouyang, we might have recovered the soaring sword from the central area, but it's now ruined. What? Morong Lai gasped. The 5 divine swords of the lands that can peel steel, cleave heavens, crush the earth, the strongest things in the world, had one of them ended up ruined? Is there actually anyone who can do this? Brother Morong, what I meant to say by that is not the sword itself that is broken, but the sword spirit is sealed and can't unleash the divine sword's power. It's nothing more than a glorified paperweight. Shangguan Qingyan sighed. Dad and the 3 venerables had been tireless in trying to unseal it for the better part of the year, with no results. The sealing was very strong, leaving nothing they could use. That's why I wanted to ask Brother Morong if you could help Dad. Morong Lai turned grave and jerked as she called to him. He shouted, Brother Shangguan is just too foolish. This matter isn't as simple as having only Eastern lands concerned, so he could just hide it from us. We all know how terrible Invincible Sword is. Without the Soaring Sword's help, how could we stop him? Thank you for sharing this with me, or I fear we'd be in the dark even as all 3 divine swords gathered to fight the old monster. Telling us at the last moment the Soaring Sword is broken would be seriously grave. Chongqing, you tell your father to see Shangguan facial. Swear, we're going right now to him and understand the situation. That old man, how can he be so blind? By looking for majesty, he endangers the entire alliance. Morong Lai grew annoyed and cursed as he rushed for Shangguan clan's lodgings. Morong Shui was grave as she followed with Danqing Shun, taking the Western Land's divine sword. That only left 3 to fight off Invincible Sword. Now that 3 became 2, stopping that monster was impossible. He wasn't just strong by himself, but also wielded a divine weapon as well. Ouyang Chongqing started, then said, Brother Morong, sect leader gave me a job to do. Isn't it just a checkup on a suspicious person? That can wait. The sealed Soaring Sword takes precedence. Go tell your father. Morong Lai shouted back as he flew away, with Morong Shui and Juer catching up. Ouyang Chongqing nodded quickly and went his own way too. Only Shangguan Qingyan was left standing there all alone, giving sneak peeks around. Shangguan Qingyan darted away too, but in a completely different direction than the rest. Father, sorry, you're the only excuse I could think of. I have to warn that devil that he's about to be found out. Zhuo Fan had left the highest floating island and after asking around, He flew to the lowest island to find his team in a lone house in a secluded place. The occasional sea breeze blew, invigorating and refreshing, having no mood to enjoy the view. Zhuo Fan went right inside the courtyard, then used the brass knocker on the large door. A cautious voice responded. "Who is it?" "It's me, Steward Qian." Zhuo Fan glanced around for any signs of other people and spoke softly. "Creak. Open just a crack." A shifty face came into view, perking up at recognizing his boss, opened the door and welcomed him in. Zhuo Fan rushed right in, and once the door closed behind him, he looked around the room to find everything accounted for. "Did anything happen?" "Nothing to us. Only you've been called out by Lingtian for questioning. You didn't let anything slip, right?" Bailey Yu stretched and smiled. Zhuo Fan's face sank. Bali Yu started and said, "You didn't. You, with your twisted and insidious mind, that had even the patriarch flustered into sending me with you, couldn't even deal with one measly Lingtian? What's wrong with you?" "It's easy to handle the old coot since we had no conflict, but Lingtian is a cautious man, with the slightest mistake making him suspicious. What was I supposed to do?" "Hey, who are you calling an old coot? Say that again." "Forget what I said." At Bailey Yu's suddenly savage look, Zhuo Fan shrugged and frowned at the rest. "What about all of you? Have you found anything in the time you've been in the Seabright sect?" "Pa." One guard stepped forward with a bow. "Sir, we've been talking with their disciples on our way here and have a grasp of the surroundings. Seabright sect is made up of 3 floating islands called Beyond Heaven Island, Mid-Heaven Island, and Beneath Heaven Island. The highest is where the important figures of the sect reside. The 3 lands experts are also staying there. It is the place where Suris came from just now." Zhuo Fan nodded. Having understood this, the Mid-Heaven Island, one in between the other 2, is where the disciples live and some executives. The disciples of the 3 lands who came to help are also staying here. The man continued, "As for the lowest island, that's where we are. Common guests are received and outer sect disciples train here." Zhuo Fan's brow shook, his eyes shining. "That's it? Nothing else?" "Of course there's more." Bali Yu cut the man off with a shout. Only this time she was dead serious. Seabright sect is like a huge prison. You can get in, but it will be hard to get out, including me. Zhuo Fan's eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Why?" Bali Yu was a prideful sword king that even barged into Sun Sea sect on a killing spree for blocking her path. She held no fear even when fighting ardent sun sword god. Knowing she could escape any time, yet when faced with the Seabright sect, she came out to say it was hard to leave it. This made Zhuo Fan tense and uneasy. "Sir, the Seabright sect is far scarier than we thought." Bali Yu remained silent, so the man cupped his hand and continued, "Frigid Rain Sword King is right. The Seabright sect has the strongest barrier among all of the sects in the 5 lands. Not even a sword king can break it. The minute our covers are blown, we will all be trapped." Chapter 10:14, Crisis. Chapter 10:14, Crisis. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, his eyes filled with doubt. The strongest barrier, one that even a sword king can't breach? They all lowered their heads. Zhuo Fan spoke. "Central area is the strongest. Central area has the most talents, with plenty of array masters. Yet they can't set up the strongest barrier while the barren northern lands can? Well, they have that heaven-sealing divine sword." Bali Yu added. Zhuo Fan rose an eyebrow, his eyes sharp. "You mean the barrier is connected to the divine sword?" "That is indeed so, sir." The man bowed again. "From our investigation, the Seabright sect's barrier relies on their divine sword to remain. No one in the lands knows the extent of the divine swords because no one has managed to unleash their full power. But Seabright sect uses arrays to witness the might of their divine sword. The inner disciples told us that the heaven-sealing sword remains at the top of the Grand Hall on Beyond Heaven Island, while not in use. Through many arrays, the heaven-sealing sword's power is being leveraged to protect the sect by forming the strongest barrier. Sir, watch. The man opened a window and pointed at the calm sea. These waters hold the sea demon, of incredible power, defeating the best in northern lands with one strike. It had unleashed sky-high swells that drowned hundreds of Genesis stage experts. But even this amazing power failed to scratch the sect's barrier. This place is so safe and at peace, all due to the heaven-sealing sword's power. The sword is beyond anyone's comprehension. After hearing this as well, I want to check out the barrier. Sure enough, not a trace of my yuan chi can slip through, having no gaps I can use. I dare say that not even my full power can scratch it. Bali Yu sighed and shook her head, like a hero past his prime looking at the peaceful waters. Shuafan said. So what you're saying is that this great barrier isolates the sea demon from the sea bright sect. If I were to venture deeper into the sea and find the sea demon, I need to first break the barrier? Regarding that, the same guard frowned. I believe not even the strongest, Bailey Yutian, can do. Ahem. Bali Yuyu's icy glare landed on the man, getting his attention as she cleared her throat. Sometimes it was best to leave her dear patriarch out of it. The man flinched and lowered his voice. Zhua Fan's eyes shone. We have no choice but to take the heaven-sealing sword and break the barrier. Steal the heaven-sealing sword? Everyone cried out. The Sea Bright sect will know the instant it's taken, and they'll come at us in force. There'll be no escape for us. Zhua Fan smirked. I'll be the one grabbing it, not you. So what are you afraid of? And once I get it, I'll run straight for the sea to find the sea demon. They'll only be following me to see the sea demon. As for you, you'll use the chaos to escape. Your mission is over. Sir, the risk is too great, be it going for the sea demon or having the Sea Bright sect hunt you down. Zhua Fan raised his hand to stop him. His mind made. That's an order. Ugh, yes, sir. They all saw Zhua Fan's firm stance inside. Just then, there was a sudden knock at the door that got everyone jumpy. Who can it be? We're just a bunch of merchants. It can't be that Sea Bright sect is suspicious, right? Or is our cover blown so soon? Everyone tensed, with sweat trickling down their faces. Zhua Fan shouted, Who's there? It's me. Open up. Zhua Fan jerked and rolled his eyes with a sigh. What's this wench doing here? Zhua Fan opened the door and Shangguan Qingyan burst right in, looking happy to see him. It's really you. I was right. You're using Qian Fan as a cover. Ha, yeah. Now why are you here? Zhua Fan looked bitter. The rest relaxed, finding them so casual with one another. Bali Yu mocked, My, what a romantic you are, Qian Fan. You find charming friends wherever you go. Who's she? Shangguan Qingyan started at Bali Yuyu's presence. A grandma the merchants gave us to stitch and babysit. You're the grandma. Try mocking me again and I'll pummel you. Zhua Fan rolled his eyes at Bali Yuyu's outburst. Shangguan Qingyan looked at them and her heart sank. She asked again, Sir Gu, this is terrible. Sect leader Ling is suspicious of you and sent the best disciple in northern lands, Ouyang Chongqing, to look into you. What, that fast? Zhua Fan looked grave. He knew he was too flashy back then, but didn't think the gentle old man would be so responsive. He needed to act faster than the inspection. Also, how did you get on Morong Lai's bad side? Sister and brother Morong are looking for you as well. But luckily you sealed Soaring Sword Spirit back then, and I mentioned it to them, so they can go help Dad with it. Or they would have come with Ouyang Chongqing to see you. Shangguan Qingyan complained again. Zhua Fan's heart seized, a chill going up his spine. Not just sect leader Ling, but even Morong Lai. That was too close. With those two coming to see him, he'd be exposed on the spot. He wagered that being part of a merchant group, he'd have some time to use this cover and figure some things out to increase his odds, but reality showed he had none. Every second he remained here would only exacerbate the crisis. Zhua Fan gave Shangguan Qingyan a deep bow, filled with sincerity. Thank you, Miss Shangguan, for your timely assistance. Without you, I would have been in grave danger. I will never forget this. Hey, it's all for young Sanzi. Shangguan Qingyan turned bashful, but a smile still formed. Since Mr. Gu will remember this favor, would you be willing to trust me with your real name? How would I know if you're sincere if I don't even know your name? Zhua Fan paused, then looked in her hopeful eyes with a nod. All right, I am Zhua Fan of Western Land. Zhua Fan? Shangguan Qingyan's eyes shone as she smiled wider. I'll remember it well. Better not be another fake name, or you'll be sorry. It's genuine, trust me. Only, you better not mention it to anyone, since I'm supposed to be dead. How come? You'll know with time. Zhua Fan smiled. Oh right, You said Murong Lai went to deal with the sealed soaring sword. What about the others? Shangguan Qingyan was quick to reply. Brother Murong had asked Ouyang Chongqing to find his father and go there as well. That's good. Since war is knocking, the more people unsealing the sword, the better and faster. Zhuofan's eyes shone as he planned his next move. Shangguan Qingyan hurriedly said, Zhuofan, there's something I want to ask you. When you returned the soaring sword to the Shangguan clan, did you seal it on purpose? Oh, not at all. I sealed it when I had to deal with the soaring sword. Everything happened so fast that I forgot to unseal it. Zhuofan said, You know as well how critical young Sanzi's condition was. I had no mind to worry about other things. I know, you didn't fool us on purpose. Zhuofan explained casually, and Shangguan Qingyan perked up on the spot. Pecking his cheek, everyone stood dumbstruck, even Zhuofan, his gaze lost in the distance and unresponsive. Chapter 10:15. Striving for to be the best. Chapter 10:15. Striving for to be the best. Proofreader. Papatonks. Ugh. The atmosphere plunged, with the air freezing in place. The others watched with gaping mouths while Zhuofan was rooted in place with his mind blown away. Shangguan Qingyan noticed the awkward vibes from their looks and blushed hard at her impulsive action, choosing to run away at once. How mortifying. Zhuofan gasped at long last, getting some life back in him, instantly treating it like it never happened. He gently closed the door and asked, You heard Miss Shangguan, right? Yeah, yep, haha. They all gave silly laughs, with the guards even bowing. We never knew Sir's name, but now we know how to address you, Sir Zhuo. The crux is, Zhuofan is real or just another fake name? Bali Yu smirked. Zhuofan rolled his eyes, then shouted, That's besides the point. What I'm getting at is that Miss Shangguan gave us 3 important pieces of news. Sect leader Ling and the Murong siblings doubt us, that they are now working to unseal the soaring sword, and that even the best in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, was called over. What do you guys think? We await Sir's orders. Everyone bowed and deferred to him. Zhuofan sighed. This information allows us to understand the situation. We're on a timer now, in extreme danger, with escape nigh impossible once Sea-Bright sect and the Murong siblings find out about us. And that this is our chance. With soaring sword sealed, every expert around ought to be busy with it, leaving the heaven-sealing sword unguarded. One guard exclaimed, Sir wants to steal the heaven-sealing sword, then break the barrier? But isn't it too hasty? We're in a race against time, with not a moment to spare. Zhuofan spoke heavily. Waiting until they unseal the soaring sword, we'll soon be trapped with no chance of reprisal. Hesitation will only get us killed. That's why we must act now while we can. You're stealing the sword. Bali Yu jerked. Aren't you afraid I'll run off with it? Run to your heart's content. Zhuofan gave an impatient wave. I don't want it anyway. Just need to lower the barrier and slip into the North Sea. What I need from you is to flee with it and distract everyone. Also, only a sword king like you has the highest chance of stealing it. Bali Yu nodded. I like this deal. I agree. Everyone else get ready to flee. Once Yu snatches the sword, break the barrier and make yourself scarce. May fortune be with you. Zhuofan was blunt. Bali Yu would be in no danger once the chaos started. While the rest would be made scapegoats, at least these men are serene shores trading diehards, willing to die to make their company great again. Cupping their hands, the men spoke with resolve. We shall obey. But when do we act, sir? The sooner the better. Tonight. Zhuofan declared, everyone mentally prepared for what was to come. Bang. There was a sudden loud knock on the door, too forceful to be from Shangguan Qingyan. It must be Ouyang Chongqing to check on us. Zhuofan gave a slight nod and said, Who is it and what brings you here? I am Sea-Bright sect's disciple Ouyang Chongqing. I learned that you have traveled a long way to bring us supplies and must be weary from your journey, so I came to pay a visit. I hope I'm not bothering you. A clear voice came from beyond the door, filled with respect, though the tone hinted at his superior airs. Bali Yu sneered and whispered, A pompous fool. Zhuofan shook his head and opened the door, to find Ouyang Chongqing straightening his clothes and putting on a dry smile. Ha ha, young Master Ouyang, welcome, welcome. You give our minor merchant caravan much honor with your presence. Greetings. Do you know me, perchance? Ouyang Chongqing's eyes lit up with joy. It's only natural. My dad is the best in the northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, and I am the best disciple in the northern lands. My name spread far and wide to every ear in the world. You must be filled with boundless gratitude and honor to have me paying you visit. Ugh. Zhuofan gave a bitter smile, noticing Bali Yuyu's smirk. The best disciple is indeed a true pompous fool, all right. The worst of them all, in fact. Ha ha ha. Sure. Young Master Ouyang's grand name has us all in awe. You're too kind, even if it's true. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Chongqing puffed up and laughed as he entered. You're all merchants here, and not just pretending, right? Zhuofan knew where he was going, but also knew his unstable character, so he smiled without fear. Young Master Ouyang, that's a good one. Haha. She must be the madam. But what about the child? Did you throw her away since she isn't yours? Ha ha ha. Getting no rise out of Zhuofan, Ouyang Chongqing ramped up his questioning. Bordering provocation, everyone's faces fell, and turned to Zhuofan. This was an attempt to provoke their emotions. Any parent would be outraged, with even a flatterer would be offended, while a suspicious person would try and remain calm. It was this difference in reactions that determined whether there was something off or not. About the target being overly angry wouldn't do, since they were merchants and shouldn't offend some big sect's disciple. While too calm was also out of the question, as it showed everything was a mere act. While Ouyang Chongqing was scanning their faces for any clue that gave them away, he heard a cursing coming from another room. You damn brat, you're the fake son here. You came here to talk rubbish, is that it? Well, my dad is going to kick you out. Shower burst out and snapped at Ouyang Chongqing in anger. Hey, where are her manners? Didn't your parents teach you anything? Please don't get angry. I've always spoiled her. Children speak all kinds of crazy things. Ha! Ouyang Chongqing's face twitched, being talked back to by a child. Zhuofan apologized, then shouted at Shower. What are you doing here? Get back inside. Shower huffed and stormed inside. With Bali Yuyu slipping a sneaky thumbs up, Ouyang Chongqing took a deep breath, annoyed still. He came here to check them and barely got any words out as a damn brat started cursing at him. Is the child suspicious too? Was all that an act? Nah, what does a brat know? Ignoring all that, having gone through that disturbing event, Ouyang Chongqing chose to give up on testing the married couple, now taking a different approach. But then a familiar shout called to him from outside. Ouyang Chongqing, get out here this instant. We're not done with yesterday's fight. That sounds awfully familiar. Zhuofan frowned, while Ouyang Chongqing rolled his eyes and walked outside. Yinamo, among Western Lands juniors, you're among the best, so you should at least act like it. Yesterday I sparred with you, but you still want more? Have you no shame coming after me again? Can it? We fought just once, and you're already calling yourself the best disciple in the Five Lands? That you stomped on the Western Lands? Where's your dignity? Another shout came from outside, this time filled with rage. Zhuofan jerked. Yinamo, people from Western Lands are here as well? Oh crap, I can't let them see me. Zhuofan gave the others a grave look and pointed at his face. Then outside, with a shake of his head, they shrugged. Stuck as well. Ouyang Chongqing, close by, had yet to notice Zhuofan's reaction, still nagging with Yinamo outside. Now you're saying that defeating you isn't defeating Western Lands? When I asked if you represented Western Lands in our fight yesterday, you were pretty smug, calling yourself the strongest in Western Lands. Now that you lost, you no longer represent your home? And? Yinamo sneered, always striving to be the best. I finally got a good fight, so how can I just let it pass me? Anyway, since I know that I'll be the best in Western Lands sooner or later, that's enough. But then you, the son of the best in Northern Lands, had to go around all smug as you declared yourself winner over Western Lands after one fight. Have you no shame? You're the shameless one, bragging to my face like that. Ouyang Chongqing's face twitched, lost for words. Wu Qingqiu's face twitched and nodded. Fine. Since Brother Ouyang has a penchant for fame, we will oblige. Though, young master, the higher you aim, the harder the fall from grace, especially from such a big stage. I have always been triumphant in all my pursuits, showered in applause and the crowd's reverence. I don't know the meaning of falling. Flicking his silky hair away, Ouyang Changqing mocked, Brother Wu, you're best worried about yourself, lest you fail miserably. Wu Qingqiu squinted and cupped his hand as he shouted, Goodbye. He took Yin and Mo away with heavy steps. Watching them go, Ouyang Changqing turned back and came inside Zhuofan's home. Hear that? I just received a challenge to fight with the Western lands for the best in the world. I don't have time to waste on you, and need to tell all my fellow disciples to come see me fight. Oh, of course, talented young Master Ouyang is bound to be victorious. Ha, Zhuofan beamed, easing his tense nerves. Great. Now this fool is finally leaving. That should at least give me peace and quiet for today. Since Lingtian had sent this kid to look into them and had yet to show results, he couldn't attack them just yet. And since the plan was to move tonight, their odds were looking good. A true Central Area spy wouldn't have acted so soon, but Zhuofan's team was doing it to turn things around and catch them off guard. Zhuofan gave the others a look, who smiled and nodded in return. His joy was short-lived as Ouyang Changqing paused. Also, Steward Qian, bring your group over this afternoon to watch me crush Western lands. You can't miss it. Zhuofan looked conflicted. Young Master Ouyang, we've come a long way and aren't even part of the sect. It's best that we don't interfere in the sect and Western lands disciples' conflict. You're too polite. With your group traveling so much, it's rare for you to come to our sect. It's my duty to entertain you guys. We could never impose on the young master's grand hospitality. And we also like peace and quiet, not a fan of bloody fights. Those brutal competitions are. They say merchants know how to read people, so why don't you get it yet? Ouyang Changqing stomped and snapped at them. You're a merchant traveling the lands, gathering information, or better yet, bearing information. I want you to witness the fight so you can spread my heroism to others, so that everyone would know of my feats, of defeating the best disciple in Western lands, and soon to become the best disciple in all the lands. If only our disciples know this and spread it around, they'll say we're insidious and conceited. What would be the point of today's win then? Zhuofan jerked, giving him a long look and a nod. Oh, right. Young Master has such foresight, thinking of the people and their opinions. You're a true man of valor, the greatest in northern lands. Just the best. Totally, but this isn't bragging, just the facts. Greatness can never be hidden no matter how modest you are. Like myself, a genius of unparalleled talent, it would be a huge loss for humanity not to let everyone know of my true value. Flicking his silky hair once more, Ouyang Changqing had a look of utter pride plastered on his face, then patted Zhuofan's shoulder. Come early this afternoon, or I'll send someone for you instead. I'm not to blame if they're a bit rough compared to me with their invitation. Some people just don't know a good thing when they see it. So petty. Zhuofan grimaced as he gave a helpless nod. This damn pompous fool only knows how to brag. I really want to punch him in the face. Oblivious to the others' thoughts, Ouyang Changqing left in glee. I'll notify Sister Shui of this fight right away. She wasn't there at my fight with Yin and Mo and had missed my greatest moments. But now she's definitely going to see everything. Zhuofan sighed as he left, then turned to the others. I hate his type the most, so impulsive and conceited. They always have a knack of messing things up. Only the heavens know what the hell is going on in that mushy brain of theirs. Goes to show something always goes wrong. You may be able to talk your way out of trouble with the older and cunning seniors, but come short when dealing with brats. Bali Yu smirked. Zhuofan shook his head. This punk only wants to make it big to get as many eyes as possible on him. With there being so many of us, having a couple less won't be noticed. Also, with his obnoxious attitude, he's definitely going to blow this simple match out of proportions. This will lax the guard and give us the perfect chance, Yu. You don't need to come to the fight. You'll be scouting out beyond Heaven Island, especially Heaven Sealing Sword's location. You only have that afternoon to get a grasp of the place, moving in once night falls. As for the rest of you, the minute the punk finishes the match, rush to the exit of the sect and get ready to leave. Got that? Crystal. Everyone shouted with solemn looks. Bali Yu showed an awfully cheerful smile watching him plan. Chapter 10:17. Her. Chapter 10:17. Her. proofreader, Papatonks. Senior brother. Senior brother. On that sunny afternoon, what should have held a measly 10,000 disciples, the stage on Beneath Heaven Island was packed with over 5 times that. There were fervent faces anywhere one looked, holding out 2 spiritual weapons and clanging them together in an unhealthy cheer for the one and only Ouyang Chongqing. Zhuofan wore an eagle mask as he looked around the literal mob, shouting in one voice, bursting his eardrums, and his only reaction was his twitching face. The fool is the master of the stage. Just the mood alone is enough to bore down on the Western Lands group. Ha ha ha. With this being the Sun Sea Bright Sex home, Ouyang Chongqing is like the big bad boss. A guard next to him nodded as Zhuofan mocked. While true, this is clearly overdoing it. Sometimes, the more you hype it, the more it makes you look like a thug who's overcompensating for something. Even if he wins now, it'll have the vibe of having gotten his way, and not that of the modest man striving to do better. In the end, youth is impulsive. Sir, you sound like a droning senile. Another guard teased. Zhuofan sighed. It's called experience that ages the mind and reigns in the raging hormones of youth. But this is how youth should be, rash and crazy. To stand out, one must copy Ouyang Chongqing here, to grow wings, to pave their future, and to be oblivious to the dangers of the world. He only wants to excel, disregarding anyone and anything, making him very susceptible to a crooked and deceptive path. As for the old, they have too many things and take measured steps forward lest they lose it all. This brings about a tranquility to them. While youth is easy prey to deception due to their ignorance, the shrewd seniors have their cautious possess them. Being afraid to lose anything, taking hold of just a bit will gain control of them. Thank you, sir, for these words of wisdom. The guard bowed. I see sir acting with force and also making leaps forward. I wonder in which category sir falls. Zhuofan chuckled. Old, ha ha ha. I'm an old demon through and through. If so, sir, I see nothing that could make you relinquish control. That's because I'm hiding it well, out of sight of any prying eyes. Showing my weakness will be no different than presenting my neck. Many oldies notice, but I do it particularly well. Ha ha, are you guys planning something for me? No, never. We only listen to the second young master's words. Sir is wise beyond your years, and we're lucky to hear your guidance. The guard bowed again. Zhuofan shook his head. Wu Randong had gone through a hard time and wants revenge, which means he doesn't trust anyone. He had you follow me to find out about me, didn't he? Though I don't mind. If I can't even hide my secrets from you guys, an oldie like me is better off retiring while he's ahead. Sir, we would never. Everyone bowed. Zhuofan didn't mind it. His eyes flashing, Ouyang Chongqing finally appeared before them, looking startled at Zhuofan's mask. Steward Qian, what's with the new look? Ha ha ha, young Master Ouyang. I'm just playing with my daughter and lost. Now she made me wear this ugly mask for the day. Zhuofan pointed at Shower as he said. Ouyang Chongqing gave him a long look, then mocked. Why take any game with a child seriously? Having come to my grand performance, you ought to cheer for me. You're only making others laugh with that childish mask. You better take it off. Ouyang Chongqing reached for it, hands off. Father promised me. If you don't like it, shoo. Shower shouted, stepping between them. Zhuofan dodged as well with a smile. Forgive me, young master. I have given my word. I am a father that needs to set an example for my child. Oh, Steward Qian is a great father, putting parenting first. Ouyang Chongqing gave a nod of admiration. It takes me back to my own father, who also used to coax me in my childhood, saying he'd let me ride his shoulders. And later? There is no later. He lied to me, never holding his word all these years. Ouyang Chongqing gave a long sigh. That's why I hate liars the most. Last night Yenimo lied to me, and today I'm going to give Western Lands a lesson they won't soon forget. Zhuofan looked stunned, then nodded. Oh, young Master Ouyang had such a sad childhood. It pains me to hear it. Yeah, I never told anyone about this. You're the first. Patting Zhuofan's shoulders, Ouyang Chongqing glanced at Shower, then at him with seriousness. Promise me you will never lie to her. I will. Zhuofan gave a bitter smile after giving him one last hopeful look. Ouyang Chongqing left. Zhuofan found his attitude quite funny from where he was standing, commenting, Every little devil has a painful past. No wonder Ouyang Changqing grew up parading himself. His father failed his promise in giving him a ride. How sad to be lied to by your dad all these years. Everyone lowered their heads. This pompous fool has yet to experience real pain. Ouyang Changqing has such style. A shout reached them that sounded familiar. Yinamo and every elite disciple from Western lands made their appearance onto stage. There was also one particular person Zhuofan could not take his eyes off. Zhuofan shook all over and caught himself, his eyes laced with pain as he balled his fists and clenched his teeth. Everyone was taken aback by his reaction. "What's wrong, sir?" Zhuofan's eyes began to tear up. None of them had ever seen the ever-wise Zhuofan lose his cool. They looked ahead at the fluttering white veil and at the delicate figure hiding behind. Shivering even from a light breeze, she only looked to be holding on thanks to the two girls attending to her. Ouyang Changqing puffed his chest and strutted before Western Land's group among the deafening roars. "Can't I invite some of my fellow disciples to watch my fight?" "Of course you can." Wu Qingqiu cut off Yin Mo's attempt to speak. "It is your sect, and it's in your right to have the fight between the strongest disciples of our lands witnessed. It's just that we have someone ill among us that the sudden excitement would be detrimental. Could I ask for your disciples to be a bit quieter?" "Ill?" Ouyang Changqing glanced at the white veil and smirked. "Her? Just why have you brought her anyway? Is this how you're helping our northern lands? 3 days ago, sect leader ordered me to go to your land and greet you, where I learned that you are bringing an ill person, frail and of vacant mind. Why is she even here? And now you're telling me a bit of noise will disturb her? Forgive us. Her husband passed away 5 years ago, and her mind has been lost since from the pain. We've tried everything, even pills, but it is out of our hands." Wu Qingqiu sighed and looked at the white veil in sadness. Her husband died in a huge explosion, and now she can't stand loud noises, scaring her. But her husband was also a rare genius, his most notable battle being against the current best disciple in Western lands, Yilin. We hoped that by recreating that image would help her recover. Alas, few are those that can be on par with junior brother Yilin. Maybe young Master Ouyang might just be the one. So we brought her along with this hope in mind. Ouyang Changqing roared in anger. "So you're taking this fight as medicine for a dumb woman? Do you have any idea how important this fight is to me? Yet you're just trying to use me, is that it?" "Of course not. I want you to fight the best disciple in Western lands, to establish yourself as the best disciple in the lands. We're only using this chance to save our junior sister. What is wrong with that?" Wu Qingqiu stared Ouyang Changqing in the eye. Chapter 10:18 of One Heart. Chapter 10:18 of One Heart. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ouyang Changqing glared at them and roared, "This isn't a play for you to enact, but a sacred competition. What is equally matched? I'm not about to throw the match over a demented woman just so you can have your act. Brothers, I want to hear you cheer. Senior brother. Senior brother." Sea-Bright's sect disciples exploded in an even bigger uproar. Constantly clanging their spiritual weapons, the whole stage rumbled from the noise, and as it thundered in the lady's ears behind the white veil, it made her shiver in fright. The two girls helping her held her close to soothe her. Their eyes filled with tears. Wu Qingqiu grew angry as he shouted back, "Ouyang Changqing, you're a man coming from a respectable clan. Are you not aware that saving a life makes everything worth it? And we're allies as well. You can't even do this little effort? I will never give up no matter what, and I'll be damned if I'll play your little role you have for me, just over some crazy woman. A fake match won't deceive her. We've tried that already. Her mind might be lost, but not her eyes. We only want to see the same power struggle we had in the Western lands back then. We think that only you can do it, and don't need anything from you, just to give your all. Is that too much to ask?" Wu Qingqiu shouted at him. Ouyang Changqing flicked his head away, not willing to cave. Bam! A youth filled with savage aura stepped in, Yilin glaring at Ouyang Changqing. Yilin mocked, "I have no interest in the fight between Western lands and Northern lands' strongest disciples. The only reason I even accepted fighting such a mundane guy like you is to help Sister Qingqing. But now, humph, I think you're in need of a harsh lesson. You're far from ever being my match. You're the best disciple in Western lands?" Ouyang Chongqing squinted with a cold smile. Fine, come teach me then. If you're just another pretender, then I'll have Wu Qingqiu answer for it once I'm through with you. I don't care who calls himself the best disciple in Western lands. I'll be finding him once I go through all of you. Senior Brothers Almighty. Senior Brothers Almighty. The roaring of the crowd once again exploded, and Qingqing shuddered in the two girls' embrace from Terror Western Lands group gnashed its teeth. With Yi Lin filled with murder, why don't we take Qingqing back? She shouldn't be here and take this. Shui Ruohua, holding Chu Qingqing close, said with tears. The others gave a helpless nod. Since Ouyang Chongqing was so against it, staying here would only hurt her more. But this bastard Ouyang Chongqing has to be put in his place. Every one of them only felt rage and fury for this arrogant prick. Wanting to beat him to a pulp, Ouyang Chongqing didn't care, since this was his sect, his home, and he had the numbers if it came down to a brawl as the two sides were at odds. One hand extended in front of Chu Qingqing's eyes as a man with an eagle mask spoke. Miss, it's much quieter where I'm staying. Would you care to sit with me? A fight between two lands' strongest disciples shouldn't be missed. Sorry, sir. She needs peace and quiet. I'll take her back. Shui Ruohua gave him a look, then an awkward smile as she refused. Ouyang Chongqing was annoyed. Steward Qian, why would you want that crazy woman around you? Also, I know I chose your seat specifically, but it's not that quieter either. Once the fighting starts, it'll be bad for you when the crazy woman starts losing it. Hey, what did you say? Qingqing's mind is only vacant, not crazy. Say that again. Shui Ruohua snapped at him. The people around got enraged as well. Judging by those glares, Shui Fan ignored it all and tearfully gazed at Chu Qingqing. It's really quiet there, believe me. You'll be safe. Sir, we appreciate the gesture, but Qingqing is too frightened and would never let strangers touch. A sudden chill took her then, noticing that the shivering Qingqing in her arms no longer shook as she calmed down. Her dainty hand even reached out, to the shock of all present, placing it in Shui Fan's wide hand. How is this possible? Shui Ruohua widened her eyes as she and the Western Lands group watched in disbelief. Chu Qingqing had lost her fame as a cold beauty ever since her husband passed away, and her mind couldn't take it, few people approaching her. Afterward, she hardly met anyone, shunning almost anyone that approached, finding peace only around her two sisters. But today, to this stranger, she reached out on her own. Why? She's even scared of her acquaintances. Elder brother. Only Yi Lin knew Shui Fan to be alive and well. He muttered under his breath, watching the man with the eagle mask with a knowing gaze. Bro had been away for so many years. Now he's finally back. Holding Chu Qingqing's hand, Shui Fan led her to his spot, under the shock of everyone. With every step, his heart bled. I left to spare her the pain, but now I see that I hurt her the most. Was I wrong? Chu Qingqing's veil fluttered, hiding her face, like that of a child, as she followed Shui Fan. Despite the uproar outside, her heart has found peace. The hand felt so familiar to her, and it now became her world. Knowing there was nothing to fear as long as she held it, her mind was vacant and knew not who he was, nor the ones around her, but their hearts had once been one. Something that would never change even without needing to see his face. His mere presence made her know by instinct that he was hers and she his. Under the dumb looks of everyone, Shui Fan took Chu Qingqing to his seat. In Bali Yu's place, glancing at Shower, Shui Fan said, Shower, say hello to Mother. Mother? Shower could feel a rare warmth from Shui Fan's gaze and called out. The others looked at him and one guard sighed. Sir, we only knew you to be cunning and ruthless, but now we see there's a gentle side as well. But this also revealed to us your weakness. Shui Fan sighed a nod. Yeah, but she can never be my weakness, because I'll always take her with me from now on. They will have to walk over my cold corpse before they can touch her. I will be her shield, and as long as I stand, no one can use her. Shui Fan looked at Chu Qingqing with hazy eyes, not knowing if she understood any of it. Her eyes were still vacant, her expression tranquil, like that of an infant sleeping. Only her hand shook slightly. Shui Ruohua and the others saw Chu Qingqing, so at peace around a stranger they didn't know how to react. Needing a moment to come to and go to her, even so, They still couldn't tell who Zhuofan was since he had been dead to them for 5 years. Now the guards knew how to act, and seeing the two girls looking after Chu Qingsheng, they made way, standing with the other disciples to watch the fight. Now that the mental patient is taken care of, we can begin. But let me reiterate, I will not throw the fight. Ouyang Chongqing shouted once more, at which the mob of disciples, coming to cheer, roared once more. Only this time, Chu Qingsheng no longer shook in fear, holding to the lifeline, the hand that would give her peace. This only baffled Shui Ruohua. Yilin had a cold smile as he stood on stage, smirking at Ouyang Chongqing. Then allow me to teach young master some manners. I'd hate to shame my elder brother for not taking care of my sister-in-law. Chapter 10:19. You know me best. Chapter 10:19. You know me best. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yilin and Ouyang Chongqing stood on the wide stage, with the executives present doing their duty in erecting a barrier to isolate their fight. The loud and raving cheers cut off as well, unable to reach the two fighters. One is a great talent of Western Lands youth, the other is the best disciple in Northern Lands. I wonder how it will turn out. Haha, this'll be good. I put my money on Chongqing. He's been training in heaven-sealing sword art since he was young, and he also had brother Lingtian to nurture him all these years. While Double Dragon Manor trains the most elite disciples, they have lost the best period in life, starting too late. And with the loss of vaulting sword, the kid had no chance of learning of the vaulting sword art. The ending is obvious. That's too soon to tell. Yes, being trained early will help correct any bad habits that might form, but the way Western Lands selects its disciple is from their very best, with each having a specialty. After all, vaulting sword art's character is one of harmony. Western Lands does it so that every disciple gets to further amplify their strengths when they learn from the vaulting sword. It's the best way of training in the vaulting sword art and bring about the greatest talent ever seen. But their vaulting sword is lost. Be that as it may, I heard that the best disciple in Western Lands has such an outstanding talent that makes not learning the vaulting sword art a moot point. How reliable is that info? Now, I'm really eager to see how far talent alone can get him against a disciple having learned from a divine sword. Ouyang Chongqing did such a great job at spreading the news of his fight that, just like Zhuofan predicted, many elders from beyond Heaven Island came over as well. They hovered above, with eager and hopeful eyes, just like the roaring mob of disciples below. They were just as interested to see who the best disciple among these two was. But without all the fanaticism. Yilin took a deep breath, looking at Ouyang Chongqing with a smirk and invitation. After you, lest people say I pick on the weak. You got some nerve acting all smug before me when you're only in the second layer of soul harmony stage. How in the world did you even get to be the first disciple with that kind of cultivation is anyone's guess. Ouyang Chongqing mocked back, although focused on looking around the audience. Not here still? I even had to insist for 2 hours to get her to agree. Why isn't she here yet? Ouyang Chongqing hesitated. Yilin's brow shook. Where are you looking? Scared? Get over yourself. I am a great 8th layer soul harmony stage expert. You must be dreaming if you think I'd be scared of someone in the 2nd layer. Ouyang Chongqing huffed with disdain, but still scanned the crowd. Such a grand performance comes by rarely. You're turning all my effort and grand heroic performance into wasted effort with your absence, Sister Shui. Sister Shui, quick, it's about to start. Meanwhile, in another area, Shangguan Qingyin kept pulling Morong Shui's arm, running over to the hustle and bustle heard for miles. Morong Shui rolled her eyes. It's just that pompous prick showing off. What are you getting all excited about? I know Ouyang Chongqing is the best disciple in Northern Lands with hardly anyone lasting 5 strikes. But his opponent this time is the best disciple in Western Lands. Maybe it'll be a great fight for once. You don't want to see if there are such experts among our peers? Shangguan Qingyin had a very good reason. Yet when she arrived at the show, her eyes were everywhere but the stage. She had even less interest in Ouyang Chongqing's high-class act. The only reason she came was because she heard Zhuofan's group was here to cheer for him. So she thought of an excuse to get Morong Shui to come as well. Was she worried at all that maybe Morong Shui would figure Zhuofan out? Absolutely not. She believed Zhuofan had taken precautions since he chose to come here. And 2, once she spotted him, she'd dump Morong Shui and would shield him from anything. This way they'd also get close. What could possibly go wrong? Having run her plan countless times through her mind, no matter how shallow, she would have Murong Shui as an excuse when coming to the fight anyway. Murong Shui had no clue of her intentions, beginning to assess the fight. Yenner, Ouyang Chongqing is strong in the end. While he always carries himself with flair and idles away like a true pompous fool, his upbringing has been perfect. He had started seclusion with his father when he was 5, to understand the heaven-sealing sword art. Not even I can last more than 20 moves against him. Won't that mean the best disciple in Western lands is going to lose? Shangguan Qingyan giggled. Sister Shui is the strongest disciple in Southern lands. But for even you to say you're going to lose, won't that mean he has won over Southern lands, youth? While Eastern lands' strongest disciple was that cousin Yulin. Though even alive he wouldn't be a match to Sister Shui. That means Eastern lands lost as well. Which leaves Western lands, needing to defeat their best disciple to be the best disciple of the 4 lands. Murong Shui gave a helpless nod. Yeah, now you know why he blew this fight out of proportions? He's about to be the best disciple in the 4 lands, a very good reason to celebrate. And with Western lands being the last among the lands, their best disciple is definitely going to fall way short. Now the entire fight had turned into a spectacle for him to look good. That's why I don't feel like coming only to watch his obnoxious grin getting wider. Of course he's obnoxious. Shangguan Qingyan teased. It will go along with your promise. His win will make him the best disciple in the lands, and give some credence to becoming the second invincible sword one day in the future. Murong Shui sneered. Best in the lands? Second invincible sword? Haha, that's rich. Even if he wins against Western lands today, his winning streak will stop here. There's one among our peers he can never defeat. He has the highest chance of becoming the second invincible sword. Who? Shangguan Qingyan's brow shook, shouting eagerly, it can't be him, right? Murong Shui turned heavy as she spoke. Central Area Sword Star Empire's Crown Prince, Bailey Jingtian. Him? Yeah, just another Bailey. Murong Shui shook her head with a sigh. I've once gone to the Central Area and met with the prince on several occasions. The Bailey clan is truly incredible, filled with talents and in constant growth. I believe that even 100 years after Invincible Sword, that clan will shock the world with another incredible figure. At the very least, their top 10 princes are on par with the best disciples in the lands, with the first 4 being above us. I couldn't even last a blow against Bailey Jingtian. He's really the second coming of Invincible Sword. Shangguan Qingyan's eyes shook. We really are hopeless. Our homes will all be united under Sword Star Empire's tyranny, with everything destroyed. Yeah, their strength breeds fear and despair. Murong Shui sighed, looking desolate. It was Prime Minister Bailey Jingwei who set up the meeting with the princes. He was then looking to persuade my brother. That's why he put on such a display to intimidate us. I have to admit, it worked. Seeing those princes' power and the immense potential of the Sword Star Empire made me realize with each passing day that we are on our last leg. While we are fighting over who's the best, the Sword Star Empire already took that title, rising to their glory. Maybe the next time, the 4 lands would end up crushed under its power. That's why I feel Ouyang Chongqing's fanfare and conceit as the best disciple in the 4 lands as empty words. Shangguan Qingyan nodded in understanding, sighing. Sister Shui has seen much, unlike us. Being so competitive and drunk on fame is truly childish. Sister Shui, you're here at last. I've waited ages for you. Ouyang Chongqing's eager shout reached Murong Shui, waving in excitement. Shangguan Qingyan and Murong Shui had a bitter smile and shook their heads in such desperate times. He had the leisure to compete over who the best in the alliance was. It only helped to make his childish image in their minds more pronounced. Or to be more accurate, naive Zhua Fantin seeing Murong Shui here, lowering his head. Chu Qingqing reached out by herself and held Zhua Fan's hand, gripping both of them tightly, as if to console him. Although, her eyes were still vacant. Sorry, sir. She doesn't know what she's doing. Shui Ruohua startled at Chu Qingqing's action, wanting to take her hand back. At once it just wasn't proper to do that with a stranger, especially a man. They'd really take her for a crazy woman. Zhua Fan stopped her, sighing as he gazed into Chu Qingqing's deep and vacant eyes. After all these years, you know me best. Chapter 1020, Tide. Chapter 1020, Tide. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sir. Shui Ruohua shook at Zhuo Fan's words. Have you met Qingqing before? With Chu Qingqing's vacant mind, she would usually avoid anyone who got close, except in this man's case, she actually took initiative. What was even more baffling, no acquaintance could achieve this. Not as easily as this man, it could only mean that he had to be a very close friend to Qingqing, closer than even her fellow sisters. Zhuo Fan said, "You could say we are close, but I just can't believe that after all these years, she became like this." I see. Sir must be an old friend of Qingqing. Shui Ruohua nodded and sighed inside. Life is in constant change, and Qingqing has suffered so much these years. When her husband passed, Shui Ruohua was filled with grief. Speaking of Chu Qingqing's matters these years, though it felt more like using a shoulder to cry on, Zhuo Fan listened quietly about his loving wife's troubles, with each word stabbing his heart. The sorrow he felt for her brought him to tears, but he gnashed his teeth and bore through them, forcing those bitter tears to be buried in his heart. The others listened in on the hardships and lowered their heads as they glanced at Zhuo Fan. The stage was drowned in shouts and roars of the crowd, with only this small corner at peace. The pain and sorrow overwhelmed everyone. For a long time, Chu Qingqing had flinched now and then at Shui Ruohua's retelling. Slowly leaning on Zhuo Fan's shoulder, Zhuo Fan could no longer stop the tears, falling down in waves. In all these years as her husband, only now could he lend his shoulder to his weary wife. He felt pain like no other in all his lives. The crowd was too busy hollering and shouting to pay any attention to their pain. Their eyes bloodshot while watching the stage with fervent joy and thirst for a good fight. Crack. Yilin's knuckles crackled as he stared hard at Ouyang Changqing. You almost had me for a second there, when you bastard said you didn't want Sister Qingqing to disturb you. But now I see you went to such lengths to set the stage, all to show off to a woman. Humph, you're a real piece of work. You'd rather show off to some cheap broad than save a life. I vow on my name as a sacred beast inheritor that I'll put you in your place here and now. Hey, who the hell are you calling cheap? For insulting the woman of my dreams, I will make you pay. Ouyang Changqing cursed back. He exploded with power in a blue glow, cold and thick, giving off a choking feeling under its pressure. The barrier around the stage was unable to contain it, sending the terrifying aura into the crowd. The power of the heaven-sealing sword Ouyang Changqing had been training in for many years now. The disciples clapped and jumped. That's our senior brother Changqing. He has the power to be the best of the best. Yilin didn't look remotely impressed, shaking a bit and unleashing a draconic roar from within his flame's sword. The golden flame swallowed his body, releasing a searing heat felt by even those outside the stage. It was so bad that the tiles began to buckle and warp under the strain. As for the stage, it split in two, half belonging to Ouyang Changqing's icy heaven-sealing domain, while the other half was Yilin's and his blistering, decimating golden flame. The two had unleashed their powers and were at an impasse. The audience gasped, too overwhelmed with amazement to keep shouting Ouyang Changqing's name. They came here thinking it would be a short fight like all till now, with Ouyang Changqing reigning supreme like always. Now, however, they were met with a standstill, at least from Aura's standpoint. Silence dominated for once, with faint whispers being heard now and then. None expected a peer of theirs would finally rise that could stand up to Ouyang Changqing's power. This was bound to be an awesome fight. The oldies spectating were taken aback as well, smiling and nodding. The best disciple in Western lands lives up to his name. The fight is going to last a while. Ha ha ha. Shangguan Qingyan pulled at Murong Shui in all her excitement. Sister Shui, it's nothing like you said. Ouyang Changqing might not win this one. Oh, it does seem like it. Murong Shui was stunned as well. I would never guess the dry Western lands of talent would give birth to such an outstanding man. Shangguan Qingyan looked smug. What do you think of my Zhuo Fan then? He's from Western lands too. However, Murong Shui smirked. Their display only proved their training is the same, but not who wins. It will solely rest on the skills, cultivation method, and attacks. Ouyang Changqing is the son of the strongest in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian. Such things are nothing for him. But as for that Western lands kid, Shangguan Qingyan grinned. We'll just have to wait and see. Murong Shui looked interested for a change, Her eyes no longer flat, but having a spark of curiosity face twitching. Ouyang Chongqing looked at his opponent, having matched him in aura, and frowned. He glanced at Murong Shui then at Yilin and clenched his fists. I've underestimated you, boy. You're nothing like everyone I fought so far. Curses, this fight may not be the show I wanted. But since Sister Shui is watching, I'm not going to let it disappoint. Speed is of the essence. I'm going to finish him off before he gets any chance to fight back and drag things on. It will only make me look like a fool. I had ignored my adversaries so far, but not this one. The crux is Sister Shui is watching and I cannot let it show I'm sweating even a drop. Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth and shot for Yilin. Yilin laughed and met him halfway. You got the wrong guy if you think you can match me in a brawl. Bam! A shocking explosion echoed as the punch and kick collided. The powerful shockwave was so strong it even made the barrier tremble. The two jumped back to their place. But while Yilin stretched out his golden scale arm with a sinister smirk, Ouyang Chongqing's leg was jerking, clearly in pain from holding it up. God damn it. Why is the punk's body so damn hard? Not even my heaven-sealing sword art strengthened body can match. Is he a monster? Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth and glanced at the stunned crowd. Senior brother actually came out at a disadvantage in the first exchange? Even the oldies were amazed. The Western Lands kid is great. I had never seen Chongqing so distressed. For Western Lands to have such an amazing talent, it must be once in millennias. Another elder nodded. Western Lands is filled with talent that don't just stop with him. A sudden speaker said. The others flinched and gasped. Exalted He ran. What are you doing here? Aren't you helping the Shangguan clan unseal the soaring sword? Why? That seal is not only strong but queer as well. We've been giving our very best for 3 days and 3 nights now yet still couldn't lift it. I came out for a breath of fresh air, letting old Bai have a go. Exalted He Ran gave a casual wave. The others bowed. Exalted He Ran is working hard. But what does Sir mean by that? You're saying Western Lands has more disciples like him? No way. That and then some. Then why is he the best? Because the strongest has died years ago. If he was alive, I dare say he'd become the second invincible sword. It would have given us hope of fighting the Central Area's ambition, but He Ran grew sullen as he sighed. The others were startled at the revelation, but also skeptical. Is the old guy for real, or mere bragging? Since when did Western Lands become a trove of talents? For even their second choice for best could push Northern Lands' best disciple. What does that say about the Western Lands' best? Chapter 1021. Evoking Heaven Art. Chapter 1021. Evoking Heaven Art. Proofreader. Papatonks. Yinamo, you were right. Ouyang Chongqing really can fight Junior Brother. Maybe not to the level of Zhua Fan's fight with Junior Brother, but it should come close with how they are. Outside the arena, Wu Qingqiu commented on the fight, telling Yinamo, "You've done well." Yinamo dismissed his praise. "It's nothing. I went first with Ouyang Chongqing to test his strength. I lasted 20 rounds with him, while only holding for 18 with Yilin. The best disciple in Northern Lands is a show-off, but does live up to his name at least. I just hope the fight could stir Chu Qingqing's mind, the least we can do for Zhua Fan's spirit. Yeah, this fight is our hope to bring Zhua Fan's spirit peace. If even this won't work, then nothing will." Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingqing and seeing her peaceful face leaning on Zhua Fan's shoulder. Her tranquility caught him off guard, especially since there was a huge fight going on and she had no sign of being afraid. He signaled Yinamo and said, "Hey, Yinamo, who is that guy?" Junior sister Qingqing has been at peace ever since they met. It's baffling. Yinamo frowned and shook his head. "I have no idea. He's wearing a mask so I can't tell. Though I don't think it would make a difference even if he hadn't. From Ouyang Chongqing's introduction, he's a merchant from Northern Lands. We've hardly ever left Western Lands, so we'd definitely not recognize him." "Why do I get a familiar feeling about him then?" Wu Qingqiu's senses threw him into a state of confusion, but he put it all aside and focused on the fight. Ouyang Chongqing looked around after his first loss and saw Murong Shui's eager eyes. His delusion made him believe she was rooting for him with that hopeful gaze. So he gnashed his teeth and weaved signs with every sign. Thunder boomed and rumbled as a sudden heavy air overtook the area. Soon, the people found it hard to even breathe. As the warmth was sapped away, ice began to form and spread. The oldies cried out at his actions. Evoking heaven art? Does he plan to finish it by showing his cards so soon? Evoking heaven art? Exalted Hey Ran started as well. See Bright Sect's main earth-ranked martial art, that evoking heaven art? The skill is said to have come from understanding the heaven-sealing sword. One old man nodded gravely. Yeah, the heaven-sealing sword contains the power of seals. By learning its art, one gains knowledge about the sealing way and breaking way. The evoking heaven art came from the heaven-sealing sword's breaking way. Exalted Hey Ran, cultivators need to reach Genesis stage to draw upon the world's power and grow their sword's power to unseen levels. But the evoking heaven art breaks the chains of the world and uses its power before one reaches Genesis stage, while unleashing the same type of might as a Genesis stage expert. It's an outrageous art, and the more worldly power is drawn, the bigger the impact. In other words, Ouyang Chongqing has become, for a brief moment, a Genesis stage expert. Exalted Hey Ran gasped as he looked intently at the fight. Since they're even, won't that mean Ouyang Chongqing has gained the upper hand with this boost in cultivation stage? Soul Harmony cultivators are seen as weak to any Genesis stage expert. Yilin is no normal Soul Harmony expert, but neither is Ouyang Chongqing in his now temporary Genesis stage. He is an inheritor of the heaven-sealing sword art. Yilin's hopes are slim at best. The elder shook his head with a sigh. Exalted Hey Ran has to look closer. The evoking heaven art is no secret art, but it has its fair share of dangers. One needs to exercise restraint when it comes to worldly power. Not even a fresh Genesis stage cultivator has much control over the worldly power, let alone in the Soul Harmony stage. If he goes beyond his limits, the power will go berserk and it will take it out on him. At worst, he'll be ripped to shreds, at heaven's mercy. Ouyang Chongqing is the best disciple in northern lands. He has at least that self-control, right? I fear his reckless youth will get the best of him. You can tell by how the fight developed. I fear he will not only hurt his opponent but himself as well, just for the sake of winning. The old man sighed. I can only hope that his opponent will fall quickly so he can reign in the worldly power before it causes harm. Exalted Hey Ran smirked. That's going to be hard. Yilin is quite unyielding. When he fought the best disciple in Western lands, he almost bet his life. He's only standing there because I stepped in. Ugh. They shared bitter smiles and shook their heads. Why did it have to be these two pig-headed fools that have to fight? The fight was worrying the elders, but the audience was oblivious to the danger. Exploding the minute Ouyang Chongqing unleashed his great move, Ouyang Chongqing saw the cheers aimed at him and the girl of his dreams watching him, and smiled. His signs formed faster the more signs he formed. The harder the pressure of the world bore down, with a bone-chilling coldness spreading. Icy sword waves formed in the sky as they flew around, spreading shock and fear. Yilin no longer had a smug look, but became serious, his fists clenching rumble. With Ouyang Chongqing's final sign, lightning split the skies, unleashing a deafening thunder. One black cloud exploded into myriads of icy swords, gathering around Ouyang Chongqing and numbering in the tens of thousands. Bang! Some scraped the barrier of the stage and punched holes in it like it wasn't even there. The safeguard was now gone. The audience was too incensed to care, shouting harder than ever and chanting his name with the fall of the barrier. Everyone, even the crowd, was now part of the fight, and being part of such a fight only meant one thing for them: death. While they were blissfully oblivious to the incoming doom, the oldies picked up on the crisis. Blast it. Now if anything happens, it will only become worse. Humph, that kid just had to pick Beneath Heaven Island's stage for his fight. Doesn't he know this stage is meant for average disciple spars? Its barrier isn't strong either. It's because most people are on Beneath Heaven Island. Ouyang Lingtian's son is like the rumors paint him, vain. Exalted Hey Ran smiled. Well, aren't you going to stop him? The oldies paused. Exalted Hey Ran, why don't you try? TCH, hell no. Exalted Hey Ran rolled his eyes. It's your home. So how could I step in? Until my disciples are in peril, I won't budge an inch. Any sooner, and it will be taken as Western land's defeat. While a mere children's quarrel, we all have our dignity, all right? The oldies shook their heads. We can't step in either. Chongqing is pig-headed, but has great talent. He's going to take his father's place and wield heaven-sealing sword. That is certain. And you want us to barge in into his most prideful moment and his fun? TCH, a bunch of bootlickers. It goes to show how it got to his head and beyond. You always indulged him. Exalted He Ren clicked his tongue, and he watched the oldies had no comeback, silently accepting his jab. None would step in until it was too late. Like whether the kid was suicidal or not had nothing to do with them below. Sword energies roamed around with the world's energy filling the air at Ouyang Chongqing's whim. He grew excited because none had brought him this far, making him feel the amazing power for the first time. Having the world in the palm of his hand was intoxicating. Ouyang Chongqing shouted and pointed at the skies. The thousands of sword energies combined and formed into a sword image with a cold edge 300 meters tall. Its unstoppable aura shimmering the air around it. Wu Qingqiu cried out. This is the power of the world Ouyang Chongqing is able to use, but why curses? How is that little junior brother able to take such a boosted move? This is not as simple as a mere boost, but a gap in stages. Hardly anything can bridge the gap between Soul Harmony stage and Genesis stage. Yanemo gnashed his teeth. The two were equal, but now, with this incredible secret skill, Yi Lin will have a hard time overcoming it, even with all he has. Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingcheng. I hope to give her an even fight. But Ouyang Chongqing went all out too quickly, becoming overwhelming in power. It took all the thrill out of it. The others sighed a nod. Only Yi Lin looked at Zhua Fan below, his eyes thirsting for battle. After turning to his opponent, golden flames burst from his eyes, as if to prove his resolve. Elder brother, watch closely. I have lost to you before, but after these years, I'm just as good as you. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ha ha ha, can you feel the extent of my power? Give up while you still can. We're allies and would hate to leave you hurting and break our land's relations. Have some common sense and I will make sure to follow in my footsteps of grandeur. With the heaven's sword in my hands, the world's my oyster. Ouyang Chongqing raised his hand and lifted the terrible and sharp illusory sword, feeding his ego as he spoke with conceit. As for the audience, they only grew more excited with his confidence. Only Morong Shui gave Shangguan Qingyan a bitter look. He has the power, but nothing beats his narcissism. The more I think about it, the more I fear for the future of the northern lands with him in the lead. Yi Lin gave him a cold look, not at all impressed by the humongous flashy sword above his head. He actually had the nerve to taunt. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's too soon to tell, don't you think, Brother Ouyang? You really think you have it in you to take on this sword? I'm going to crush it. With golden flames shining in his eyes, Yi Lin shouted, his body exploding with power. This is a secret art I could only use once in the Soul Harmony stage. I planned on using it on Elder Brother when we sparred again. But since we met first, I'll let you have a taste. Decimating Inferno, Fire Dragon form. Yi Lin roared at the heavens, followed by draconic howls, shaking the air with every rumble. Scorching and golden lights shot from his body like a volcanic eruption, illuminating the whole sky. A dreaded heat wave spread, enveloping half the world in a red hue and the audience in a hot spell. As for Yi Lin, under the shocked eyes of the crowd, began to change. Golden scales formed on his body and his teeth turned into sharp fangs. He was now like a wild beast, and from the shape of his head, it was that of a dragon. Everyone gasped at the sudden transformation. Is his soul the greatest heaven dragon soul? How else could he take this form in Soul Harmony stage? His power and Yuan Qi amount had to be multiplied. There are now some good chance he might actually take on the sword. Ouyang Chongqing huffed. So what if you have the heaven dragon soul? My sword is from the heaven sealing sword art. Even if you harmonized with the heaven dragon soul, it won't do a damn thing. Humph, do you really think this is your average soul harmony? Ignorant whelp, just watch. I told you, this is fire dragon form, not your average fake draconic soul harmony. Yilin smirked and shouted again, boom. Akin to a detonation, the violent golden flames shot from his body in every direction. The great power made the audience squint. Feeling on their skin the searing heat he released, Ouyang Chongqing gasped, his mind going a mile a minute as he reproached brothers. This is but a fight for the best in the alliance, not to the death. Could you not detonate, please? The oldies were just as stunned, gaping at the display. Not even exalted He Ran acted with more composure. Why's Yilin so panicked to detonate? He's not even cornered yet. Standing there for any longer would let the inferno reach the crowd and would be sure to leave countless casualties. The elders were ready to stop this from happening. Ouyang Chongqing grew serious as well, about to slash with his sword and stop the incoming golden flames, and yet the spreading golden inferno paused and pulled back in on the stage, forming a huge fire tornado, punching a hole in the skies. When the tornado settled, a deafening draconic cry racked the audience's ears. The elders, Ouyang Chongqing, even exalted He Ran watched with dumb look at the incredulous scene unfolding. Yilin had been hiding such a move even in the years spent inside Double Dragon Manor. Yilin was nowhere to be seen on stage, replaced with a 300-meter-tall golden and flaming dragon soaring high above. Where it passed, the air shimmered, as if the skies feared the divine dragon's roars. Only a divine beast could have the might to challenge heavens, never content with just holding the world's power. Yilin was now a fire dragon, his power being on the level of heaven itself. Why then should he care if the opponent used worldly power? Ouyang Chongqing's brow shook, still holding the sword, but his gaze was lost. Screw you. That's no soul harmony dragon, but the real thing. Talk. Where the hell did Western lands get such a monster? You damn abomination. Wu Qingqiu and the rest from Western lands were floored. They knew Yilin was badass, but only now knew he held a skill that could rival heaven's. Ouyang Chongqing had now met his match as a fight like no other was about to unfold. The fight sure was intense, on the level of Zhuofan and Yilin's back in Western lands. Wu Qingqiu and Yinamo shared a smile, then looked at Chu Qingqing. Shangwan Qingyan was dazzled, looking astonished. Sister Shui, it's totally worth it. Yeah, it's beyond my imagination. The best disciple in Western lands to be of such amazing talent to fight the son of Ouyang Lingtian. He is on the level of the best 4 princes of the Bailey clan. As for the strongest Bailey Jingtian Murong Shui side, I don't know for sure since we never fought, but these two give us hope. Bam! Yilin's huge bulk landed on stage, the large vertical eyes staring at Ouyang Chongqing, while sometimes glancing at Zhuofan. See that, bro? This is my power, just like yours. His mood got killed the minute he saw Zhuofan, never even looking at him. Zhuofan's eyes were only on Chu Qingqing's peaceful features as he listened to Shui Ruohua tell him of Chu Qingqing's troubles, shaking his huge dragon head. Yilin sighed with disappointment, focusing on his adversary instead. He opened his maw to reveal the human-sized fangs as he laughed. Boy, you dare talk big with me? You're only asking me to tear into you. Bam! The dragon claw slammed on stage, crumbling it to pieces. The powerful shockwave howling as it spread to the audience and burning his majestic visage in their trembling hearts. It was like they were seeing a real dragon in all its glory, robbing them of their breaths. All the resounding support Ouyang Chongqing had been getting from his fellow disciples was now quashed under the oppressive power of the dragon before them. They couldn't muster the slightest peep. Feeling utterly inferior, Yilin was a true dragon, a king in his own right before the masses. For the first time ever, the stage had sunk in complete silence. No one held more authority than the fire dragon's royal aura. Ouyang Chongqing started to sweat as he watched the huge dragon, but his heart burned with anger. He didn't know what abomination Yilin was, with how the average soul harmony stage cultivator merely took on the appearance of the soul beast, bumping up their power a bit. But this guy in front of him became a true dragon no matter how he looked at it. That was not a human standing before him, but a dragon made of fire. He didn't care how or why it happened, only feeling that his grand performance had been squashed. All eyes were now on Yilin's magnificent and royal form as he became a prop. It was a blow his ego was incapable of taking. He had fought so many times, but when did he ever become the extra? This time there were so many people watching, all thanks to his efforts too, and to show off in front of the girl of his dreams. But all that popularity had gone away in a flash. Would a man of his endless pride allow for another to steal his limelight? He had to win this at all costs, or it would haunt him for the rest of his days. Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth and resolve glowed in his eyes. The sword above him grew more savage. I don't care if you're a fake or not. I'll slaughter you where you stand. Ouyang Chongqing waved and brought down the greatsword on Yi Lin's huge dragon bulk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Proofreader, Papatonks. Who? The large sword carried the power of the world as it came down on the dragon head. Its chilling aura swept the stage, cooling the heart coming from Yi Lin. The dragon's surging fires dimmed and flickered as well. Yi Lin's brow shook, still having the calm of mind to know that the heaven-sealing sword art held the power to contest the dragons. So he willed the flames to reach 10 meters once more as he used his big claws to grasp the large sword bam. The claws screeched as they made contact, with hot and cold fighting for supremacy. Ouyang Chongqing strained with a red face to bring that large sword down while Yi Lin forced himself with a soaked brow to keep the flames burning against the icy blade. Even as they slowly got put out, they both used all they had, but they were now at a standstill. The prolonged tension brought unease to the crowd, looking on nervously and eager to know the final winner. The best disciple in the alliance. You think you can best me with just your power? In your dreams. Evoking heaven art. Pushing hard for 15 minutes, yet the claws held the sword at bay still. Ouyang Chongqing had lost his patience. Yi Lin's true dragon form was too strong, able to counter the power of the world with only his strength. Thinking about it, he realized the yuan qi reserves Yi Lin had were gigantic as well. Thus letting it drag out would be to his detriment. He might have borrowed the world to bump his power. The yuan qi he used to gain control over it was too taxing to keep running for long. Speed was of the essence today, was also the first time he used evoking heaven art and controlled so much worldly power. And if he tried to take some more? Ouyang Chongqing hesitated, but then he saw Yi Lin's conviction. He just gnashed his teeth and shouted as he made the signs. Another rumble spread through the skies as sword energy gathered in his hand and flowing into the large sword. The sword's coldness flared with power, pushing back harder against Yi Lin's draconic body, snapping the stage in half from the force. Ouyang Chongqing grew pleased at the results. Let's see you last now. The oldies of the Sea Bright sect were getting tense by the moment, evoking heaven art again. It should be fine. Let's hope so. They shook their heads in worry. The audience cheered at their senior brother's comeback, though drowned soon after by another draconic roar. As he pushed at the incoming sword, he also lashed out with the searing and flaming tail bam. The large sword shook as it dimmed. Ouyang Chongqing shook with it, pushed back a bit. But it was his heart that couldn't take the reality. Yi Lin smirked and wheezed, while still having the energy to mock, "Brat, let's see how far worldly energy can take you." Humph. Isn't it something you drew with your yuan qi? The minute the sword shakes the slightest bit, your yuan qi is affected. How will you draw worldly power in that state? One tiny shift and everything will come down crashing. Your evoking heaven art isn't anything to look at. Yi Lin flared his fire and pushed at the large sword bam. Ouyang Chongqing's face twisted as he paled. "Damn punk, I'll get you for this." With his opponent figuring out his weakness, Ouyang Chongqing ignored everything and made signs again. "I'll show you the true power of the heaven-sealing sword art." Heaven-sealing art. The large sword exploded into many cold blades and shot for Yi Lin's bulk. Invisible and unnoticed, Yi Lin surged in the sky because of the loss of resistance. But then the sword waves battered his body, snuffing out the flames and even forming ice. Yi Lin cried out, "What is this thing? I can't move." "Haha, see that? This is the true power of the heaven-sealing sword art." "Sealing?" Ouyang Chongqing laughed in pride. "Once caught, strength won't matter, for you can't move a muscle. You lost, Western Land's brat." Yi Lin's face twisted in defiance. The elders above gasped. Evoking heaven art uses the breaking way, while heaven-sealing art the sealing way. Who told him to use both of them at the same time? He's only making it worse. What's the problem? Exalted Ran felt bad for seeing his disciple lose. But then he heard them and asked, "You're saying this is more dangerous than evoking heaven art?" The elders nodded. Yeah, overusing evoking heaven art only gets the power to run berserk and could step in to get control over it. But with how these skills engender each other, the loss of control will mean a rampant surge of worldly power no one can grasp unless the seal is released. This happened only once, 2,000 years ago, with the wielder using the heaven-sealing sword to cut off the power of the world from unleashing a disaster. But even then, there were countless casualties and thus was forbidden. I did not expect Chongqing to use it today to win a match. Is it because it happened so long ago? Kids these days have no idea of the horrors of the past. Then are you going to do something about it, or just watch? Of course we'll stop it no matter what. The elders went down, but then the dragon roared, and as the ice was about to swallow Yilin, the golden flames flickered to life once more, breaking it down. But there was also blood flowing from his mouth. Ouyang Chongqing sneered. Using your blood essence to stir your potential? Humph, it's no use. The worldly power at my disposal is boundless. How long can you last? Evoking heaven art? Ouyang Chongqing made signs once more. Don't do it. One elder shouted in panic. Ouyang Chongqing was too far gone now, obsessed with winning, with proving himself best. Worldly power gathered once more. Bearing down in the form of another sword, Ouyang Chongqing shifted his signs, heaven's sealing sword art. The elders' faces twitched, unable to stop him in time. The sword energies coming from the heavens had yet to fully form and turned into cold energy the next second. Gunning for Yilin, it formed another cage. In an instant, Yilin's heart jumped in shock, fighting to keep his golden flames burning and fight off the cold. It was no use, for the two arts had now set free the world's energy out of Ouyang Chongqing's control. The world formed a sword by itself, then transformed into cold blades that struck Yilin. Ouyang Chongqing laughed in glee. Ha ha ha. You can actually use both arts at the same time for an even greater effect to unleash all the endless power of the world. My win is set. How come I couldn't see this before? You saw shit. That's losing control of the worldly power and bringing about destruction. One elder flashed before him and shouted at the others, "Send for Lingtian at once. Tell him to come with the heaven-sealing sword and break the link." Ouyang Chongqing looked baffled. "Elder, what's wrong? Aren't I the first who used the two arts together? Do you think yourself so clever? Is that it?" The elder's face twitched, looking distraught and fearful at the sword coming from the sky. Yilin roared once more, trapped in ice again. But this time the ice was bizarre, working to swallow his bulk until he turned into a dragon statue of ice. His eyes then flared with savagery behind the ice. Chapter 10:24. Ouyang Lingtian. Chapter 10:24. Ouyang Lingtian. Proofreader. Papatonks. Whoosh. Sword energies flew around the sky, slamming into the ice dragon and adding to the seal. The ice dragon howled at the sky with such power it crushed the stage, then blew his breath on the audience. One of ice and cold, the chilling breath swept the unfortunate ones and turned them into statues of ice in mid-panic. So deep was the cold that it froze their very souls. Were finished. The heaven and earth has gone berserk. One elder held his head and sighed bitterly. Ouyang Chongqing was enraged when Yilin attacked his fans. "Hey, Western Lands punk, have you lost your mind? You're the demented one, Chongqing." The elder shook his head and snapped at him. "Have you any idea what calamity you caused? Evoking heaven art and heaven-sealing art engender each other. Evoking heaven art breaks, opening a channel into the world so you can draw its power, while heaven-sealing art seals this channel and the power. When a cultivator uses the worldly power, it would dissipate afterward and return to its rightful place, back to the world. This is its nature, but you opened a channel into the world, then had it sealed in place. The minute you lost all control over that power, it started spilling into reality without stopping, thanks to locking the channel, while also running amok with no one to direct it. And this is the result." Ouyang Chongqing's eyes went wide, scratching his head classlessly. "Elder, so you're saying the dragon isn't that guy but a masked worldly power? Why is it attacking people then? Isn't it just energy?" "The world has spiritual energy, so it must have its own will." The elder shook his head. Once a cultivator draws upon the worldly power, they can control it. But now this power has gone berserk, gathering in one place and also gaining sentience from the will of the world. With heaven and earth going crazy, you have no idea what kind of a disaster it can cause. It's beyond anything humanly possible. Ouyang Chongqing looked at the far ice dragon with a deep frown. What about the Western Lands punk? You're saying the power focused on him and it's controlling him? What about his mind? Has it been swallowed? You have the nerve to ask? The elder's face twitched and shook his head. Have you no clue what you just did? You used heaven-sealing sword art, and he's been frickin' sealed. Now the power of the world is going into the dragon without a conscience, the best thing for it. If the mind was still there, some control would have been possible. This time is going to be even harder to deal with than 2,000 years ago. Your father is going to tan your hide. Ouyang Chongqing's lip quivered. Like he was a naughty child caught red-handed and looking guilty, the roars echoed across the skies as the ice dragon flung its bulk around and spraying ice to freeze everything. The only expressive thing about these lifelike statues were the fearful eyes and the shocked faces. Wu Qingqiu cried out, "Little junior brother, what happened to you? Stop." Who? The ice dragon blew ice once more. Wu Qingqiu knew he was going to fall under such power and rushed to dodge. His leg ended up being caught in the blast. Freezing over, sir. What just happened? Go and take Qingqing away. The peaceful storytelling had now come to an abrupt end as a monster rampaged around, turning people into popsicles. Shui Ruohua gasped and reached for Chu Qingqing to take her away from this dangerous place. Shuifan regarded the peaceful face of his wife and smiled. It's fine. There's no need to disturb her. You haven't finished the story, Miss Shui. Please continue. As if, with so much chaos around the world might be ending, and you're asking me to tell you a bedtime story? Even if I might be suicidal, I will never let any harm come to Qingqing. What kind of a sister you take me for? While she was insisting on taking Chu Qingqing, one guard grabbed her hand. Miss, since Sir said you may continue, then it's fine. Please trust him. We're also here, and shall keep the danger at bay from reaching Miss. Looking into Zhua Fan's eyes, then into those eyes filled with complete trust, she turned to watch the Berserk ice dragon. Shui Ruohua hesitated, but she had no choice other than nod. Even if against it, Zhua Fan smiled and looked at Qingqing next to him lovingly. Bam. On stage, Exalted He Ran shot a sword energy at the ice dragon and break the ice on it and reach his dear disciple. But the dragon shook and all the ice splashing about was soon absorbed into its body, along with the power of the strike. Exalted He Ran gasped in fright. What in the world is that thing? Exalted, please refrain from doing anything. Nothing we do will have any effect. One elder with a white beard came over as he explained hastily, that is the embodiment of the heaven-sealing sword art. No matter what skill is used, it will only be absorbed by the seal and become its own power. That's why nothing we do to it will help. We can only protect the other disciples and flee from here. Exalted He Ran was astonished. Then he glanced at the panicking disciples fleeing for their lives, still ending up in ice from the dragon's breath, and said, "If you say this thing's unstoppable, how then do we deal with it? We can't let it run amok and freeze the whole sect." Exalted, it can seal everything but the 5 great divine swords. The man cupped his hands and pointed at the ice swords raining down from above. Even now, please observe, the channel into the world has been opened, turning into an infinite loop. Our only hope is to dodge and wait for Brother Lingtian to come with the heaven-sealing sword and seal the channel, then cut it to disperse all that power. He will also go easy as to save your disciple as well. Exalted He Ran's brow shook, looking at the ice dragon freezing anything that moved with a sigh. He relinquished a nod. This thing was now part of the world, undying and unstoppable. The more power they used on it, the more it absorbed. The only option right now was to wait for Ouyang Lingtian to come to the rescue and fix this damn mess his own son made. Ouyang Chongqing looked at the ice dragon ruining everything, out of his control, and felt so bad he could cry. I can't tell if Dad will come to strike me down or the dragon first. Sniff. Ouyang Chongqing, this is all your fault. You did this. You caused this disaster to fall on so many lives. 2 girls flashed out of nowhere. Shangguan Qingyin glared at him and started cursing. Morong Shui was furious as well. Full of hatred. Morong Shui's hatred, however, was due to having involved innocence. Shangguan Qingyan's rage was because she worried for Zhuofan, so she was taking it out on him. She was running her mouth, while looking around for Zhuofan with everyone in panic. It was hard to look. Ouyang Chongqing lowered his head in guilt. Under the chastising look of the girl of his dreams, he was even more accepting of his guilt than when faced with his father. There, Shangguan Qingyan spotted Zhuofan, still sitting without a worry and listening to everything talk about monstrous, not even having a healthy respect for the worldly abomination running amok just next to him. Maybe it felt the contempt, or maybe all the targets fled and left only Zhuofan's group still untouched. But the ice dragon roared and set its eyes on them. It shot for them, its icy aura freezing the area around it as it passed. Watch out! Shangguan Qingyan cried out in fright, a little too late. The others around her looked down just in time to see another poor souls being sacrificed to the calamity. Leave this to me. A resounding voice spoke. The cold humming of a sword was heard as a figure in gray rushed over at full speed. Dad! Ouyang Chongqing cried out, thrilled and scared. While the others looked on in hope, Northern Land's best, Ouyang Lingtian, finally arrived with heaven-sealing sword to clean up his son's mess. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraithclaw. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraithclaw. Proofreader, Papatonks. Heaven-sealing sword art, heaven-breaking strike. A dignified man with a gray robe fluttering in the wind appeared. He had sharp eyes and sharp features. He wielded an azure longsword, giving a dazzling light. Its sharp edge promised to cut everything in creation, even the world, humming all along. The sharp sword energy rushed out of the tip and went for the ice dragon, moving with incredible speed through the air. The others watched in awe as the best in Northern Lands made his move as he was in mid-strike. Someone shouted at him, "Brother Lingtian, please go easy. The ice dragon has my disciple sealed. Please spare his life." There's actually someone in there? Isn't it like the disaster 2,000 years ago? Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shook from the news, and he halted the attack. He looked back to see Western Land's exalted He Ran speaking up. Ouyang Lingtian went back to the raging ice dragon, about to run into Zhuofan. He was hesitating, not knowing where the sealed disciple was under all that ice, and one wrong move would cleave him. By hurting exalted Double Dragon's precious disciple would mean ruining their cooperation, while delaying would also implicate the people it targeted, under the ice's torment from the dragon. The sudden conundrum had the best in Northern Lands stuck: save one, and let many die to keep the land's friends still, or accept the loss of a single life for the good of many. Ouyang Lingtian found it a very tough choice to make. Which was worth it? The alliance or the lives below? It was a headache even for the most righteous characters, but he had omitted one last choice: inaction, leaving the ice dragon to rampage for Zhuofan's group. Now no one could save them. His attack would be too late for the sword energy to reach them in time. The ice dragon would have crushed them to pieces by the time he struck to others. It looked like Ouyang Lingtian had made no choice when he actually did. Yilin was brought at their invitation by exalted He Ran with the promise of safety. With Western Land's crucial situation, his safety was just as vital. Far more so than a few random lives. The righteous path stated that all lives were equal. But when people were involved, that value tended to change to suit their needs. Ouyang Lingtian held the sword tight and sighed. Down below it was life and death, yet the matters of the world had won over his principles. He wanted to save everyone, but he stayed his hand. Not for the life inside the ice dragon, but the ties among the two lands. No matter how huge the collateral, the essential personnel had to be kept alive, lest it would cause tension between factions. Such was the secular world. The five lands' best experts could be all noble as much as they wanted, but it still didn't change the fact they were tied in the vicious interests of the world around them. Shangguan Qingyan had hoped for Ouyang Lingtian's appearance, so that Zhuofan would be saved. But the best in Northern Lands' rescuing strike failed to deliver. It astonished her to no end. Why aren't you doing anything? Yeah, Dad would always help people in need. Why is today any different? Is he afraid of harming innocents from how far we are? Ouyang Chongqing cried out. Morong Shui's brow shook and sighed. It's not a stray attack he fears, but his already stray heart. The ice dragon roared once more, carrying unstoppable power straight at Zhuofan. surrounding them in a harsh cold mist. The slightest touch would mean being frozen on the spot. Now there was no escape, junior sister Qingqing, junior sister Shui. Wu Qingqiu cried out, with the others around him nervous for their fate. Shangguan Qingyin cried out in panic, "Look out, Zhua Dash!" There was no stopping the ice dragon's charge. It raised its claw and went for their lives, to crush them to an icy pulp. Shui Ruohua and the other girls stood rooted in place. They glanced at the unfazed Zhua Fan, still sitting in his spot, with reproachful gazes. "I told you we should run, but you just had to play it cool. Now look what happened. There's nowhere to go now. If you find death so nice, why the hell did you have to drag us with you as well? Look at Qingqing. She's still lost in her own mind. The poor girl is about to fade away, all due to some damn stranger. Well, aren't you all pissed your boss is so stubborn he just had to have you all die as well?" Shui Ruohua turned to the guards then, only to find them just as cool. Shui Ruohua was stumped. "Are they all suicidal? You don't mind dying with such a master?" Having been around Zhua Fan for this long journey, they figured out early on how he operated. From inciting frigid rain sword king to facing invincible sword, whenever he showed complete calm, then it was proof enough that all would be fine. Zhua Fan held Chu Qingqing's hand, her head leaning on his shoulder, in utter tranquility, even more so than usual. So why would they rack their nerves? They had complete trust in Zhua Fan's control, worshipping his flawless skills. It could have come from a horde of dragons for all they cared. So long Zhua Fan was chill, so were they who. The ice winds blew, surrounding the area in its great power. Even the seats chilled over and froze their rears. It was then the two claws were right on top of them. Shui Ruohua's eyes rolled back, about to faint from terror. The onlookers, Wu Qingqiu, Yanemo, Morong Shui, and the others were filled with worry but equally helpless. Ouyang Lingtian sighed, closing his eyes, unable to bear seeing the result of his choice. They might be collateral, but lives nonetheless that he brought doom upon. He felt he had lost all dignity. Exalted He Ran looked at the three girls below with a shake of his head and guilt. To save Yi Lin and the Western Land's future, he had given up on the expendables. It was certain to all here that Zhua Fan's group was finished, sighing at the loss. But the deadly ice claws halted for no reason. Just above them, to everyone's shock, they watched as a black claw formed between Zhua Fan and the ice dragon, blocking the ice claws from coming any closer. What is this? Why isn't he sealed in contact with the ice dragon? One elder shouted in disbelief. The ice dragon seals everything. Arts, souls, and even yuan qi in its body. How is it that someone is still unaffected when touching it? Ouyang Lingtian watched the spectacle with equal shock, forgetting to even mind his flying. Heaven's sealing sword art can no longer seal? That's not possible. Shui Ruohua was waiting for her life to end at the ice dragon's claw, but found it to be late. She cracked an eyelid open and saw the black claw, keeping it back with a dumb look. Wasn't this dragon unstoppable? Exalted He Ran couldn't stop it earlier, so why can this man? Sir, Shui Ruohua turned to Zhua Fan in shock. Zhua Fan only had eyes for Chu Qingqing, who still leaned on his shoulder with a smile. Then he glanced at the halted ice claws with a hard expression. You ruined the mood, bastard. Thunderflame Wraith Claw. His left eye acted up and the black Thunderflame exploded. It spread over the black claw and enlarged it many times into a huge Thunderflame claw. The crackling fire filled the air with death. It was a power and aura that struck fear to the core of the disciples and the mighty experts above, including Exalted He Ran and Ouyang Lingtian. As for the ice dragon, it actually showed fear under the black Thunderflame's power. Its huge icy bulk quaked from it. Chapter 1026, The Best. Chapter 1026, The Best. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom. The dreadful black thunder claw squeezed and the ice dragon's claws exploded to pieces. The Thunderflame made sure to burn them to nothing before they got back to its body. The ice dragon shook from fear. Looking terrified, the guy was simply standing at the side, without a care, till now, and gave off no indication it wielded such godly power. Incapable of even being sealed, it flicked its tail, and the scared dragon withdrew as he absorbed the cold icy sword waves from the sky and repaired the damage. Its claws were soon good as Nu Zhuofan was not about to let it go. Since he had to get involved, he would finish it too. Zhuofan's eyes shone and the huge Thunderflame claw shot forth to clutch the ice dragon's head. Bursting it with a squeeze, the ice was blown away. Even if formed from the worldly power, ended up burned to nothing from the Thunderflame. The Thunderflame claw grabbed further at the body and took seconds to turn the 300-meter large ice dragon to pieces. Pieces that had no chance of returning. Sizzling and gone from this world, the Thunder Claw grasped one last time and drew a person next to Zhuofan because of the seal placed on him. Yi Lin's mind was hazy, his body wobbling around. Yet he managed to catch some glimpses through the haze. Thank you, elder brother. After all these years, I still can't catch up to you. It's fine, just be more careful next time. Releasing the claw, Zhuofan looked calm as before, still sitting with Chu Qingcheng leaning on his shoulder, having felt nothing of what transpired. Even with all the chaos that went on, along with the ruckus and destruction, Zhuofan made sure to keep Chu Qingcheng shielded from even the slightest tremor. Everyone else, though, was too shell-shocked to react. Ouyang Chongqing was gaping even. It was beyond his expert comprehension how the merchant he asked to come watch turned into a world expert himself. The divine move used to crush the ice dragon was beyond sublime. With the ice dragon using sealing, only a divine sword could touch it, but even his dad would have a hard time doing it. Just who the hell is that freak? Shangguan Qingyan looked on with adoration, but seeing Zhuofan and Chu Qingcheng hand in hand, with the pretty face leaning on his shoulder, her joy plunged into confusion. Who is she to him? Why is he so caring with her? I've never seen him act like this with anyone. Gu Yifan. A sudden cry entered her confused mind and saw Murong Shui frowning with a complex gaze at Zhuofan. Shangguan Qingyan looked around and rushed to whisper, Sister Shui, are you sure? How can he be that Gu Yifan? He might wear a mask, but I'll never forget the child next to him. Murong Shui was convinced. I also know the black Thunderflame he used as well. Black flames are a rarity across the world. It is him, beyond any doubt. Clenching her fists, Shangguan Qingyan lowered her head. How am I supposed to turn this around when Sister Shui is dead, set on her suspicion? Curses, Sister Shui is too much of a stickler for righteousness and will definitely tell others what to do. Shangguan Qingyan was anxious while looking from Zhuofan to Murong Shui. Murong Shui picked on her cues and whispered, Yenner, did you already know him? No way. Only what I heard from you. Hahop. Shangguan Qingyan flinched and forced a straight face on Murong Shui's hard stare was unnerving. Yenner, you don't then? Then why were you so nervous seeing him about to get hurt? Fess up. Did you know he was here? Shangguan Qingyan caved under Murong Shui's hard stare, squeezing a helpless nod. Yet you still covered for him? Do you have any idea how dangerous he is? Sister Shui, he said he came here to save his son. He's no threat to our lands. And you believed him? Of course I did. He helped get our soaring sword back. Shangguan Qingyan turned defiant under the assault, speaking with conviction, and I saw how much he cared for his son. He won't ever use his son as an excuse, especially when his life is on the line. Murong Shui's eyes shook and frowned and thought Shangguan Qingyan was anxious. Sister Shui, I beg of you, don't tell on him, please. He's not bad. If he's so nice, then there's no good left in the world. Murong Shui rolled her eyes, then sighed as she looked at Zhuofan. I don't need to say anything. His attack painted a target on him. The Seabright sect will place a high value on him, and it's just a matter of time before he's found out. Then let him fake for a while longer. Shangguan Qingyan sighed as looked at Zhuofan with deep concern. Murong Shui sighed and shook her head. One guard saw everything that had happened and whispered to Zhuofan, Sir, I fear we're now the center of attention. Our cover will be blown. I know. Zhuofan glanced at the peaceful Chu Qingcheng and smiled, but it was all worth it. Qingcheng shouldn't have been like these for so many years and should close her eyes and get well. It's what I owe her, what I. Zhuofan looked lost, and the guard understood as he retreated. Shui Ruahua stared into Zhuofan's expressive eyes with astonishment. Sir, why do I find you familiar? Have we met? Zhuofan remained silent. Whoosh. Exalted He Ran suddenly landed before them, giving a long look to Zhuofan. He helped Yi Lin from the ground and cupped his hands. Thank you, sir, for your help. How may I address you? Steward Qian Fan. Zhua Fan replied, Exalted He Ran started. Qian clan, from the northern lands. Yes. Oh, northern lands have such amazing talent. Exalted He Ran gave him one last look, then cursed inside. He thought Yilin and Zhua Fan from western lands were the peak of what was humanly possible in terms of talent. Now he found that there was one more obscene genius. From northern lands, talent comes in all sizes in every generation and from anywhere. The world will change. Exalted He Ran inspected Yilin's weak body, then said to Shui Ruahua, Take Qingcheng. I'm taking you back to look after your wounds. Hold. Shui Ruahua rushed to obey and take Chu Qingcheng. But Zhua Fan intervened. Zhua Fan looked at Chu Qingcheng with her eyes closed and said, Only brother here is wounded. Senior can just take him. Miss needs peace to get well. Don't disturb her. You can all mind yourself, since he is far more important to you, sir. It's best if you don't delay his healing. Ugh. Exalted He Ran knew sarcasm when he heard it. A clear criticism for abandoning them over Yilin. He sighed and cupped his hands again before leaving with Yilin. Shui Ruahua was stumped as to what to do. Whoosh. Ouyang Lingtian came next, on the stage, and raised his hand at the uncaring son, who was now shaking in fear at his dad's presence. You fool. You almost sent us all to oblivion. You know that? I know. The elders told me. He held his head with a guilty look, quickly changing topics. But shouldn't we be tending to the world channel and seal it first? We need to stop the power from flowing in. Why is there no more sword energy in the sky? Ouyang. Lingtian huffed in anger. There's no need to seal it. Not when it closed itself. How peculiar, then. Weren't you saying that you were clueless and that the elders had to fill you in? Ouyang Lingtian railed it on him. Damn brat, listen up. The worldly power needs to be drawn into the secular world to be controlled. To simplify, your art did that. The world went berserk because you changed the target of the drawing. Like before, the ice dragon became the target, making it so the worldly power focused on him. Once the ice dragon is no more, then there's no one drawing it. Of course the world will return to normal. Ouyang Changqing bobbed his head. A weakened yet firm voice reached them. Ouyang Changqing, let's fight again. It was Yilin who was now carried away by Exalted He Ran. Humph, just a fight. Next time, I'll just use one art to beat you again. Let me tell you, the best in the alliance will one day be yours truly. Ha ha ha. Bam! Ouyang Lingtian had enough of his boasting and cuffed him over the head. You're fighting nothing. Haven't you caused enough trouble? And I thought the best in the four lands had been settled already. Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shone as he looked at Zhua Fan. Everyone stared as well in realization. Maybe not only the best disciple in the alliance. Chapter 1027. Watched. Chapter 1027. Watched. Proofreader. Papatonks. Ouyang Changqing felt conflicted as he looked at Zhua Fan. He could tell the other was strong, but did not mean he was ready to admit it. Unless a proper match is taking place, no one can say who's stronger. What's the point? That exchange was enough to show the difference between you. Ouyang Lingtian gave him a sharp glare, then spoke heavily. That ice dragon is something you and the Western Lands disciple have made with your power. It can be said he fought both of you then, and easily beat it. He is far above you in this aspect, and Ouyang Lingtian grew silent at the end, and Ouyang Changqing got curious, and the ice dragon used your strongest heaven-sealing sword art, yet he easily broke it. This shows he is above you. He is in another class than you who are fighting for the best disciple in the Four Lands. You just can't win against him. Murong Shui was the one to finish Ouyang Lingtian's words. He was staring at his father with eyes filled with questions, and Ouyang Lingtian nodded. Shui is right. I've been fighting for so many years, but not once have I seen any divine sword's power being restrained. Not even invincible swords sundering sword art has such power. But who is he? Ouyang Lingtian stared at Zhua Fan filled with doubt. The others were also curious, trying to guess his background. At the very least, they could rule out being a tiny steward to some merchant clan. Murong Shui kept her promise to Shangguan Qingyan and did not say a word. Not like they needed her help, since Zhua Fan gave himself away in broad daylight. He was in the limelight, and there was no escaping it. Sea Bright Sect was not about to overlook such a mysterious and dangerous element, Slipping into their home, either they were all looking tense, trying to pick his every tell. Zhuofan acted oblivious, just sitting there with a girl on his shoulder, not wanting to disturb her. I am Ouyang Lingtian of Seabright sect. Who might Sir be, and where do you come from? What brings you to the Seabright sect? Seeing how the strange mood had no effect on Zhuofan, Ouyang Lingtian came over before this seemingly radiant stage cultivator. He dared not disrespect in the least. The rest looked intently at the exchange. Ouyang Changqing still refused to believe what was happening. His father, the best in northern lands, was paying respects to some junior. It only went to prove how much the best in northern lands evaluated Zhuofan, no less than at his level, since he got rid of the heaven-sealing sword art in one move. It meant that such power was the nemesis of the heaven-sealing sword. As its wielder, he was definitely concerned while the cultivation was far below. The skill used put him on edge. Zhuofan gave him a look and knew he could no longer play innocent, having got to his usual mysterious and calculative self. He regarded the extremely respectful Northern Lands senior and spoke casually. Senior Ouyang, I am only a steward of the Qian clan coming to deliver goods. Let's leave it at that. Qian steward? Ha ha. Does Sir take me for a child? We know everything about the Qian clan, and there's no one like you among it. Ouyang Lingtian shook his head. I don't want to force Sir to be honest, but the situation is critical now. Your sudden presence here terrifies us all. I have no choice but to offend Sir to avoid any problems. I can only ask for your forgiveness. Ouyang Lingtian's face was cold, giving the elders a look. The dozens of Genesis stage elders had the merchant group surrounded the guards tensed, awaiting for Zhuofan's orders. Shangguan Qingyan started, clenching her fists with a frown and a pained heart. Morong Shui shook her head, while the Western Lands disciples and Seabright sect disciples watched the events unfold. Shui Ruohua and the other girl were just confused, looking at Zhuofan in wonderment. How did he turn dangerous? Who is he, to need to arrest him? Zhuofan didn't move still, looking gracefully at the peaceful girl leaning on him. He then glanced at Ouyang Lingtian. Senior Ouyang, could you give me a moment to sit better? Sit better? What for? Ouyang Lingtian had no idea what trick Zhuofan was trying to pull. Zhuofan shook his head. Senior Ouyang, I just want to sit and nothing else. After all the destruction the ice dragon caused, it will make for a nice sunset to enjoy with the ice covering everything. Enjoy the sunset? Ouyang Lingtian's brow twitched, looking around the icy and snow-covered ruins, then at Zhuofan with a dumb look. What's up with this guy? There's no shock, panic, fear, nor anger, just the intention to watch the scenery. Is he all right? Ouyang Lingtian was floored by the deep eyes behind the eagle mask. Zhuofan's request had him stumped. The others let Ouyang Lingtian take the lead and would not stop now, so all were looking dumb at Zhuofan, who just wanted to enjoy twilight. They had seen their fair share of people in their long lives as cultivators, against sly weasels or rash fools. But Zhuofan took the cake. Chu Qingqing opened her eyes, much clearer than before, but still vacant. She then left Zhuofan's side. Qingqing is awake. Shui Ruohua lit up and spoke in gratitude. After all these years, this is the first time she had such a peaceful rest. Even with all the chaos around, it's a miracle she could sleep for so long. Shui Ruohua teared up. Zhuofan nodded at Chu Qingqing and said, Senior Ouyang, let's go. Miss Shui, I'll leave Miss Chu in your care. Did you stay like that so you won't disturb her? Ouyang Lingtian saw Zhuofan showing no change, but then it hit him. I get it now. Sir, after you. Ouyang Lingtian gestured, and a couple elders approached Zhuofan to detain him. Zhuofan didn't fight, walking away with a deep gaze as Shui Ruohua held Chu Qingqing. Qingqing, after I save young Sanzi, I will come get you and will never leave your side again. Pa. He barely made a step as Chu Qingqing reached out and gripped Zhuofan's hand. Zhuofan started and looked on with hope. Is Qingqing awake? What he saw was the same empty eyes, even as her soft hand held on to him, like something precious, unwilling to let go. Shui Ruohua tried to pull her, but the grip wouldn't give. Shui Ruohua was awkward, looking puzzled. What's got into Chu Qingqing? Zhuofan knew that she reached for him out of instinct no matter when or where. Even with her faded mind, her memories gone, her feelings would never change. Chu Qingqing was holding on to Zhuofan all because of those feelings. Zhuofan's heart was in pain again. Speaking firmly to Ouyang Lingtian, Senior Ouyang, Could you also bring Miss wherever you're taking me?